The glass conference room on the 47th floor gleamed like a jewel box suspended over Los Angeles. February rain streaked the windows, blurring the city lights below into watercolor smears of gold and red. Inside, the air was thick with tension and expensive cologne, the kind that cost more per ounce than most people earned in a day. Kang Jiwon sat at the head of the obsidian table, his posture relaxed in a way that fooled absolutely no one. At 34, he'd built an empire in the shadows where law and order dissolved into gray. His construction company had rebuilt half of downtown LA. His import business moved shipping containers that customs agents were paid handsomely not to inspect too closely. His real estate holdings stretched from Koreatown to Beverly Hills. On paper, he was a self-made billionaire. A Korean-American success story. The kind of immigrant achievement the politicians loved to celebrate. In reality, Kang Jiwon was a king in a kingdom built on fear, loyalty, and the kind of violence that never made the news because the bodies were never found. He wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit that had been hand-tailored in Milan, the fabric so fine it caught light like smoke. His black hair was swept back from a face that looked carved from stone, all sharp angles and brutal elegance. A scar ran along his left temple, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. A reminder from his first kill at 19. When his father's enemies had come for the family and Jiwon had learned that mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford. But it was the dragon tattoo that people remembered. It started at his collarbone, crawled up the right side of his neck and disappeared into his hairline. Traditional Korean style, done by a master in Busan when Jiwon was 22. The dragon's eyes seemed to follow you, seemed to know your secrets, seemed to promise that crossing Kang Jiwon meant choosing death. Across the table sat Viktor Kozlov. Russian. Mid-50s. Eyes the color of a Siberian winter and just as warm. He'd arrived in Los Angeles 3 months ago, making overtures about partnership, about combining their organizations for mutual profit. Jiwon had been cautious. Russians were unpredictable. They operated with a brutality that made even the Korean syndicates uncomfortable. But business was business. And if Kozlov could provide access to Eastern European markets, the partnership might be worth the risk. Tonight was supposed to finalize the deal. Territory divisions, profit splits, the careful dance of predators establishing boundaries without showing weakness. Behind Kozlov stood 2 bodyguards who looked like they'd been grown in a lab designed to create human weapons. Beside him sat a thin Korean woman in her 40s. The translator Jiwon had vetted personally. She'd been on his payroll for 6 years, translating business deals, helping navigate the delicate cultural nuances that could make or break negotiations. Jiwon had 4 of his own men in the room. Marcus Chin, his head of security, stood by the door, Korean-American, ex-Marine, the kind of loyal that couldn't be bought or broken. The others were positioned strategically, weapons concealed but accessible. The negotiation had been tense for 90 minutes. Kozlov wanted more than Jiwon was willing to give. The percentages didn't add up. The territorial boundaries were too vague. And something in the Russian's smile made Jiwon's instincts scream warnings he'd learned to trust. But they were close. Another hour, maybe less, and they'd either have a deal or they'd walk away and prepare for war. Then the door opened. And everything changed. Amara Bennett heard the low murmur of voices as she approached the frosted glass doors of conference room 4701. He checked her watch. 8:47 p.m. Her supervisor, Patricia, had been explicit this morning. The 47th floor needed to be spotless by 9. Some investor walkthrough scheduled for tomorrow morning, and if the executives found so much as a fingerprint on the glass, Patricia would write her up. Amara couldn't afford another write-up. She'd already been warned twice this month for being late. Never mind that being late meant she'd been working a double shift at the diner in Koreatown and hit traffic on the 101. In Patricia's world, excuses were just excuses. Results were all that mattered. So here she was, pushing her cleaning cart down the hallway of one of LA's most expensive buildings, her third-shift janitor uniform crisp despite her exhaustion, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail that had started the shift smooth and was now frizzing at the edges. At 29, Amara had perfected the art of invisibility. In a city like Los Angeles where everyone was trying to be seen, influencers posing for Instagram, actors waiting for their big break, musicians uploading videos hoping to go viral, Amara had learned that survival meant the opposite. It meant moving through spaces without drawing attention. It meant keeping her eyes down, her voice soft, her presence minimal. People who got noticed got hurt. She'd learned that lesson early and well. The conference room doors were frosted glass with subtle geometric patterns etched into them. Through the blurring she could make out shapes. Men in suits. The angular shadows of expensive furniture. She could hear voices, low, controlled, speaking in a language that made her heart skip. Korean. She hadn't heard Korean spoken in a business setting since Mrs. Kim had died 5 years ago. The language was usually confined to Koreatown now. The restaurants where she sometimes ate on her breaks. The grocery stores where she bought instant ramen because it was cheap and reminded her of better times. The late-night karaoke bars she passed but never entered because she couldn't afford the cover charge. Amara knocked softly on the door. No response. The voices continued, uninterrupted. She knocked again a little louder, then cracked the door open. "Excuse me, I just need to empty the..." "Get out." The voice cut through the room like a blade. American accent, but there was something underneath it. A soul intonation that suggested English was his second language, learned later, perfected but never quite native. Amara's head snapped up, her apology already forming on her lips, and then she saw him. The man at the head of the table was devastating. There was no other word for it. He had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or movie screens. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, eyes so dark they were almost black. But it was the intensity in those eyes that made her breath catch. He looked at her with the kind of focus that suggested he saw everything, catalogued everything, forgot nothing. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to move in the low light, its scales catching the glow from the overhead fixtures. "I'm sorry, I'll come back." Amara started backing out, her face heating with embarrassment. "You'll leave now." He dismissed her with a glance that lasted less than a second, his attention already returning to the older white man across the table. Amara felt the dismissal like a physical blow. She'd been dismissed before, countless times. By employers who saw her uniform and assumed she was stupid. By people in elevators who clutched their bags tighter when she stepped in. By a society that had looked at a black girl in foster care and decided her potential was limited to service work. But this felt different. This felt like she'd been weighed, measured, and found so insignificant she didn't merit even basic courtesy. Her hands clenched on the cleaning cart handle. She should leave. Should back out of this room and come back in an hour when these important men had finished their important meeting. But something stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the memory of Mrs. Kim teaching her that dignity wasn't given, it was claimed. Maybe it was just the culmination of too many years of being invisible finally reaching critical mass. She started to turn away when the older man spoke. His accent was thick, heavy with Slavic consonants. "Your problem, Kang, is you think you control everything. But control is illusion." The Korean woman beside him, translator Amara realized, began rendering his words into Korean. Her voice was professional, smooth, careful not to inject emotion into the interpretation. The man at the head of the table, Kang apparently, listened with the stillness of a predator deciding whether to pounce or wait. When the translation finished, he responded in Korean, his voice dropping to something dangerous and quiet. "당신이 착각하는 게 있다면 내가 통제를 원한다고 생각하는 거야. 난 이미 통제하고 있어." "You're mistaken if you think I want control. Already have it." The translator started to interpret, but the older man held up a hand, stopping her. And then everything shifted. Amara had been about to leave, her hand on the cart, her eyes averted. But she froze when she heard the older man switch languages. He spoke in Korean. Broken, heavily accented, with grammar that made her wince. But Korean nonetheless. "내가 생각하는 것보다 더 많이 알고 있어." "I know more than you think." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Kang's expression didn't change, but Amara saw his hand move under the table. Slow. Deliberate. Toward something concealed. The older man, Russian she was certain now, leaned forward. His smile was the kind predators wore before striking. And when he spoke again, still in that fractured Korean, Amara's blood turned to ice. She understood every word. And what he was saying wasn't being translated correctly. The Korean woman was softening it, sanitizing it, turning threats into suggestions and violence into innuendo. Whether she was scared or complicit, Amara couldn't tell. But the translation the Russians' team was hearing bore almost no resemblance to what was actually being said. "다음 주 너의 화물에 대해 우리는 위치를 알아. 경로도 알아. 넌 똑똑하다고 생각하지만 그냥 남자의 게임을 하는 소년일 뿐이야. Your shipment next week. We know the location. We know the route. You think you're smart, but you're just a boy playing a man's game. The translator rendered this as, Mr. Kozlov expresses concerns about supply chain security and hopes both organizations can coordinate for mutual benefit. Amara's grip tightened on her cart. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a setup. And then the Russian said something that made her decision for her. 그것을 빼앗으면 너의 여자들과 아이들을 첫 번째로 찾게 될 거야. 내 할머니, 부산에 있는 그 여자. 그녀부터 시작할 거야. When we take it, your women and children will be found first. Your grandmother, the one in Busan. We'll start with her. The translator stammered, her face going pale. She started to interpret, but what came out was, Mr. Kozlov suggests that family considerations should guide both organizations toward peaceful resolution. It was a lie. A complete, sanitizing lie that turned a death threat into a peace offering. Amar looked at Kang. Saw him listening to the false translation. Saw him starting to relax slightly as if he thought Kozlov was backing down, offering compromise. He had no idea he was being set up for slaughter. No idea that the Russian was threatening his grandmother, the woman who'd raised him, if the mention of Busan meant what Amara thought it meant. She should leave. Should walk out of this room and let these dangerous men destroy each other. Their world wasn't her world. Their violence wasn't her concern. But Mrs. Kim's voice echoed in her memory. The voice that had taught her Korean at the kitchen table, that had braided her hair and called her Ritar, our daughter, even though the state said it was only temporary. Amaria, when you have power and see injustice, silence is complicity. Mrs. Kim had said that the day before Amara aged out of foster care. The day before she'd had to leave the only home where she'd ever felt wanted. You speak Korean now. You understand two worlds. That's not a burden to her. That's a responsibility. Amara's mouth opened before her brain could stop it. He's lying to you. The words dropped into the room like stones into still water. Ripples of shock spread outward. Every head turned. Every eye locked on her. Kang's gaze hit her like a physical force. He stood slowly, his 6'2" frame unfolding with the controlled grace of someone who knew exactly how dangerous he was. What did you say? His voice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that preceded violence. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd crossed a line. Shattered every rule of invisibility she'd spent years perfecting. But the words were out now, and Mrs. Kim's voice wouldn't let her take them back. She spoke in Korean. Perfect, fluent Korean with a Seoul accent that she'd absorbed from 3 years of being loved by the Kim family. 그는 당신을 속이고 있어. 그 번역자는 그가 말하는 걸 절대 다 전달하지 않아요. He's deceiving you. That translator isn't telling you everything he's saying. The room went silent. Absolutely, suffocatingly silent. Kozlov's expression shifted from smug confidence to something cold and lethal. His bodyguards' hands moved toward their jackets. Toward weapons, Amara realized with a spike of terror. Kang stood completely still. His eyes never left her face. When he spoke, his voice carried a different quality. Not anger. Something closer to wonder. 당신이 지금 무슨 말을 했어? What did you just say? Amara swallowed hard. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. In Korean, careful and precise, she repeated. The translator isn't giving you accurate interpretation. What the Russian is saying and what she's translating are completely different. Kang's jaw clenched. A muscle jumped in his cheek. 그가 뭐라고 했어? 정확하게. What did he say? Exactly. This was it. The point of no return. Amara could feel Kozlov's hatred radiating across the room, could sense the violence coiling in the air like a living thing. But Kang's eyes held hers, and in them she saw something unexpected. Not threat. Not dismissal. Something almost like hope. She took a breath and recited Kozlov's words precisely, including every threat, every crude insult, every detail about the shipment and the plan to target his family. As she spoke, she watched Kang's expression transform. The corporate mask melted away, revealing something far more dangerous underneath. By the time she finished, his eyes had gone flat and cold. The eyes of a man who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. He turned to Kozlov slowly. When he smiled, it was the smile of a dragon before it breathed fire. I think we're done here. He spoke rapid Korean to Marcus Chin at the door. Amara didn't need translation for what happened next. Marcus and the other guards drew weapons. Kozlov's bodyguards reached for theirs, but Kang's men were faster. The distinctive clicks of safeties being released filled the room. "You come to my building," Kang said, his English perfectly calm despite the guns pointed at Kozlov's head. "You insult me in my language, thinking I won't understand your broken Korean. You threaten my grandmother." His voice dropped to something absolutely lethal. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Kozlov's face had gone white. "The translator," she said. "The translator told me what you wanted me to hear." Kang's smile widened, showing teeth. "She's been on my payroll for 6 years. Every word you said I knew about 5 seconds after you said it. I was just waiting to see how far you'd go." It was a lie, Amara realized. A perfect, devastating lie to hide the fact that he'd actually had no idea until she'd spoken up. But it worked. Kozlov's certainty crumbled into fear. "But this woman," Kang gestured toward Amara without looking away from Kozlov. "This woman you never even noticed because she's just the janitor?" He heard everything. She understood everything. And she had the courage to tell me the truth when my own translator wouldn't. He took a step forward. "So here's what's going to happen, Victor. You're going to leave my building. You're going to leave my city. And if I ever hear that you or your organization have come within 100 miles of Los Angeles, if I ever hear my grandmother's name in your mouth again, I will find you." He paused. "And you will pray I kill you quickly." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Kozlov stood on shaking legs. His bodyguards moved toward the door, their hands away from their weapons, their postures screaming submission. As they left, Kozlov paused. Looked at Amara with hatred so pure it was almost physical. "You just killed yourself, he said in Russian. Amara didn't speak Russian, but she understood the tone. The promise. Then they were gone, and the tension drained from the room like water from a broken dam. Kang's men holstered their weapons. Marcus Chin checked the hallway, spoke into a radio coordinating something. And then Kang turned to face her. Up close he was even more devastating. Taller than she'd thought. Broader in the shoulders. The dragon tattoo was intricate, beautiful, clearly the work of a master artist. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, with gold flecks she could only see because he was standing so close. He studied her for a long moment. Taking in her uniform. Her cleaning cart. The name tag that read, Amara B. in cheap plastic letters. When he spoke, his voice carried a different quality than it had with Kozlov. Softer. Almost gentle. "Where did you learn Korean?" Amar's throat was dry. "Foster family. The Kims. I lived with them from age 13 to 16. Seoul accent. Yes. Mrs. Kim was from Gangnam. You speak like you were born there. Like you grew up hearing it every day." "I did. For 3 years." Amara's voice steadied slightly. "Mrs. Kim wanted me to understand the language. She said it was a gift. That speaking Korean would give me power in spaces where people wouldn't expect it." Something shifted in Kang's expression. "She sounds like a wise woman." She was. "She died 5 years ago. Cancer." "I'm sorry." The condolence sounded genuine. Amar didn't know what to do with that. Didn't know how to reconcile the man who'd just threatened to kill Kozlov slowly with the man offering sympathy for her loss. "You understood everything he said," Kang continued. "Every word." "Yes." "How long were you standing there?" "Maybe 30 seconds before I spoke. I was about to leave when he switched to Korean." "But you didn't leave." "No." "Why not?" The question was genuine. Amara saw real curiosity in his eyes, maybe even confusion. In his world, people didn't help without motive. Didn't risk themselves for strangers. "Because what he threatened was wrong," Amara said quietly. "He was going to hurt your grandmother. Hurt innocent people. And you didn't know because the translator was lying." He swallowed. "I couldn't just walk away. Mrs. Kim taught me that silence is complicity. That if you have power, even just the power to speak, and you don't use it, you're choosing to let evil win." For a long moment Kang just stared at her. Then he did something completely unexpected. He smiled. Not the predatory smile he'd given Kozlov. Something smaller. More genuine. Almost impressed. "Mrs. Kim taught you well." "She tried." Kang pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly, then looked at Marcus Chin. When he spoke, his voice carried command. Find everything about her. Where she lives, where she works, who she knows, family history, everything. I want a full report in 3 hours. Marcus nodded and left the room, already making calls. Amara's blood turned cold. Wait, You should sit. Kang gestured to one of the chairs at the conference table. We need to talk. I have other floors to clean. They can wait. His tone left no room for argument. Please. Sit. It wasn't really a request. Amara sat, her mind racing. She just inserted herself into something dangerous. Something that involved death threats and weapons and men who made people disappear. Kang settled into the chair across from her. Up close she could see the faint scar on his temple, could smell his cologne. Something expensive with notes of bergamot and cedar. What's your full name? He asked. Amara Bennett. Amara. He pronounced it perfectly, the Korean way, Amare, with equal stress on each syllable. It means eternal in Sanskrit. Beloved in some African languages. She blinked, surprised. You know that. I make it a point to understand names. They tell you about people. Who they are. Who their parents hoped they'd be. He paused. Your mother chose it? Yes. She died when I was 7. And your father? Never knew him. He left before I was born. Kang nodded slowly, processing. So foster care from 7 onward? Yes. And the Kims took you in at 13. For 3 years. Until I aged out of the system. They didn't adopt you? The question hurt even after all these years. They wanted to. But Mrs. Kim got sick. Cancer. By the time we found out, it was stage 4. She died 6 months later. Amara's voice steadied. Mr. Kim couldn't take care of me and her. So I went back into the system for the last few months until I turned 18. I'm sorry, Kang said again. And again it sounded real. It was a long time ago. Pain doesn't care about time. The words were so unexpected, so raw that Amara looked up sharply. For just a moment she saw something in his eyes. Something that looked like understanding. Like he knew exactly what it felt like to lose someone who mattered. But then it was gone, replaced by the calculating focus she was starting to recognize as his default. You work here as a janitor, he continued. 3rd shift. Yes. 6 p.m. to midnight. Other jobs. A diner in Koreatown. Midnight to 6 a.m. His eyebrow rose. You work 12-hour shifts 6 days a week? 7. The diner is always short-staffed on Sundays. When do you sleep? When I can. A few hours here and there. Kang's expression hardened slightly. That's not sustainable. It's surviving. That's what matters. No. His voice was quiet but firm. Living matters. Surviving is just not dying yet. Amar didn't know how to respond to that. Didn't know what to do with a man who threatened murder one moment and offered philosophy the next. Do you know who I am? Kang asked suddenly. You're Kang. Something. The Russian called you Kang. Kang Jiwon. I own this building. Along with about 40 others in LA. Oh. I also own the construction company that's rebuilding downtown. The shipping company that handles imports from Korea. And several other businesses. He paused. Legal businesses. The emphasis on legal suggested there were other businesses he wasn't mentioning. The illegal kind. Why are you telling me this? Mar asked. Because you just saved my life. Possibly my family's lives. And I need you to understand what that means. I just translated what I heard. You did more than that. Kang leaned forward slightly. You chose to be seen when being invisible would have been safer. You spoke truth to power when silence would have been easier. You risked yourself for a stranger. His eyes held hers. In my world, that kind of courage is rare. That kind of integrity is priceless. I'm not looking for payment. I know. That's exactly why I'm going to insist on it. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back in Korean characters. This is my private number. Not my office. Not my assistant. Me directly. Mar took the card. The front had his name in English and Korean, along with an address in Beverly Hills and a phone number. The back had a different number written in what looked like expensive ink. I don't understand. Victor Kozlov is leaving Los Angeles tonight, Kang interrupted. Marcus is making sure of that. But Kozlov has people here. Visits. Soldiers. They saw your face. They heard you expose their boss. He paused, letting that sink in. They'll want revenge. Fear spiked through Amara's chest. I didn't think. No one ever does. Kang's expression was grave. Which is why I'm assigning security to you. Starting tonight. You can't go back to your apartment alone. You can't work your shifts unprotected. Until we're certain Kozlov's people have been neutralized, you're in danger. I don't need. Yes, you do. His tone left no room for argument. And more than that, I owe you. You saved my grandmother's life. My family's lives. That creates a debt I take very seriously. He stood, moved toward the door. My head of security will take you somewhere safe. Comfortable. You'll stay there until we've handled the threat. Wait, Amara stood too. I have shifts. I have bills. I can't just disappear. Your employers will be compensated for your absence. Your bills will be handled. You won't lose anything by accepting my protection. But... Kang turned back to face her. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Almost kind. Amara. You just stepped into my world. A world where helping me means you made enemies you can't fight alone. I know you value your independence. I know you're used to taking care of yourself. He paused. But right now, pride is dangerous. Accept help. Let me protect you. And when the threat is gone, you can go back to your life. What if I refuse? He smiled slightly. Then Marcus will follow you anyway. But it'll be much less comfortable for you if you're fighting the protection instead of accepting it. The certainty in his voice made it clear. She didn't really have a choice. Amara looked at the business card in her hand. At the Korean characters that spelled out a name she was only beginning to understand the weight of. How long? She asked quietly. How long until it's safe? Days. Maybe a week. Kang's eyes were honest. I don't know yet. But I promise you this, you'll be protected. You'll be comfortable. And when it's over, you can choose what happens next. Choose what? Whether you want to go back to working 3 jobs and barely surviving. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Or whether you want something different. What kind of different? We'll talk about that when you're safe. When you've had time to rest and think clearly. He reached out slowly, giving her time to step away, and gently touched her shoulder. For now, just trust me. Please. The please surprised her. Men like him didn't say please. Didn't ask. They commanded. But maybe that was the point. Maybe he was trying to show her that he saw her as more than just another person to control. Okay, Amara said finally. I'll accept your protection. For now. Thank you. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Car's ready, boss. Kang nodded, then looked back at Amara. Marcus will take you to one of my properties. It's secure. Comfortable. Everything you need will be provided. Buy things. We'll send someone to pack them. You don't go back to your apartment. Not yet. His voice was gentle but firm. Kozlov's people might already be watching it. The thought made Amara's skin crawl. Go with Marcus, Kang said. Rest. We'll talk tomorrow. As she moved toward the door, Kang spoke again. Amara. She turned. Thank you. For speaking up. For being brave when you had every reason to stay silent. His eyes were genuine, intense. I won't forget what you did tonight. Then he turned away, already pulling out his phone, already moving to the next crisis. And Amara followed Marcus out of the conference room, out of the building, into a black Mercedes that smelled like leather and money, knowing with absolute certainty that her life had just changed forever. She'd spoken when she should have stayed silent. She'd been seen when invisibility had kept her safe for years. And now, a man who commanded empires and spoke death like poetry had made her a promise of protection that felt simultaneously comforting and terrifying. Because in Kang Jiwon's world, protection came with a price. And Amara was only beginning to understand what that price might be. The drive through Los Angeles took 30 minutes, winding up into the hills where the city lights became distant stars and the houses transformed into estates hidden behind gates and walls. Amara sat in the back of the Mercedes, her hands folded in her lap, trying to process everything that had happened in the last hour. She'd translated Korean. That was all. Just spoken words she understood. And now she was being driven to a safe house by a man who moved like violence incarnate, protected from Russian mobsters by a billionaire who commanded respect with a glance. Marcus Chin drove in silence, his eyes constantly checking mirrors, scanning the road ahead. Professional. Military precise. After 10 minutes he spoke. Mr. Kang doesn't offer protection lightly. Amara looked at him in the rearview mirror. What does that mean? It means you impressed him. That's rare. Marcus took a turn onto a private road. I've worked for him for 8 years. I've seen him dismiss people who saved his life because he didn't trust their motives. But you. He paused. He trusts you. Don't know why yet. But he does. I just translated. You did more than that, Miss Bennett. You spoke up when you could have stayed quiet. You risked yourself for someone you didn't know. Marcus's eyes met hers in the mirror. In our world that makes you either very brave or very stupid. Mr. Kang thinks you're brave. What do you think? Marcus smiled slightly. I think time will tell. The car pulled up to a gate, solid steel 12 feet high, topped with security cameras that probably cost more than Amara made in a year. Marcus pressed a button on the dashboard and the gate swung open silently. The property beyond took Amara's breath away. The main house was modern glass and steel, 3 stories of architectural elegance that seemed to float above the hillside. Warm light glowed from floor-to-ceiling windows. Gardens surrounded the building, lit by subtle ground lighting that made the landscaping look like something from a dream. This is his house? Amara asked. One of them. He stays here when he's working late in the city. The main family estate is in Palos Verdes. Marcus pulled up to the entrance. You'll be in the guest wing. Fully self-contained. Bedroom, bathroom, sitting room. Everything you need. He came around and opened her door, a courtesy that made her uncomfortable. She wasn't used to being treated like someone who mattered. The interior was even more stunning than the exterior. Hardwood floors in a honey-warm tone. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more per piece than her annual rent. Art on the walls. Korean contemporary mixed with what looked like traditional ink paintings. Everything was tasteful, elegant, controlled. Like the man who owned it. Miss Bennett. A woman appeared from a side hallway. Korean, maybe 60, with kind eyes and an elegant hanbok-style dress in deep blue. I'm Mrs. Cho. I manage Mr. Kang's household. Let me show you to your room. Amara followed her through hallways that seemed designed to showcase the city view. Every turn revealed another wall of windows, another breathtaking vista of Los Angeles sprawling below. The guest wing was larger than her entire apartment. The bedroom had a king-sized bed with linens that looked like they'd been spun from clouds. The bathroom had a soaking tub, a rainfall shower, and toiletries that Amara recognized from the expensive department stores she'd never shopped in. The sitting room had a comfortable couch, a large television, and bookshelves filled with both English and Korean titles. Mr. Kang asked me to provide clothing in your size, Mrs. Cho said, opening a closet. If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, let me know and I'll arrange alternatives. The closet was full. Jeans, sweaters, professional clothes, casual wear, all in her size, all in styles that actually looked like things she'd choose if she could afford them. How did he know my size? Amara asked. Mrs. Cho smiled. Mr. Kang is very thorough. Are you hungry? Dinner was prepared earlier, but I can heat something for you. Amara's stomach growled, answering for her. She hadn't eaten since her break at the diner 12 hours ago. A stale bagel and coffee that tasted like burnt regret. Yes, please. If it's not too much trouble. No trouble at all. Mrs. Cho's smile widened. Do you have any dietary restrictions? No, I eat everything. Good. I'll bring something up shortly. In the meantime, please make yourself comfortable. If you need anything, there's a phone on the nightstand. Press 0 for the main house. After Mrs. Cho left, Amara stood in the center of the bedroom, feeling completely out of place. The room smelled faintly of lavender and expensive fabric. The bed looked like something from a luxury hotel. Through the windows, Los Angeles glittered like scattered diamonds. This wasn't her world. This was the world of people who had money, power, security. People who didn't worry about making rent or whether their car would start in the morning or how to stretch $20 across 3 days of meals. She moved to the window, pressed her hand against the glass. It was cool to the touch, probably triple-paned for insulation and soundproofing. What am I doing here? She whispered to her reflection. Her reflection had no answer. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Cho returned with a tray. The smell hit Amara first. Karim braised short ribs. The scent was so familiar, so achingly reminiscent of Mrs. Kim's kitchen, that tears pricked her eyes. "I thought you might enjoy Korean food," Mrs. Cho said, setting the tray on the small table in the sitting room. "Mr. Kang mentioned you speak Korean. Are you Korean American?" "No, I'm..." Amara hesitated. "I was raised by a Korean foster family for a few years. They taught me the language." Mrs. Cho's expression softened. "They must have loved you very much. Language is an intimate gift." "They did." Amara's voice caught. "Mrs. Kim passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry." Mrs. Cho touched her shoulder gently. "Eat. The food is better warm. And if you need anything, anything at all, you call yes." After she left, Amara sat and ate. The meal was perfect. Tender meat falling off the bone, the sauce sweet and savory in the way that made her think of Sunday dinners at the Kim house. There was also rice, kimchi, and a soybean paste stew. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, trying not to think about how this one meal probably cost more than she spent on food in a week. When she finished, exhaustion hit like a wave. She'd been awake for 19 hours, working 2 shifts, translating threats, being relocated to a billionaire's safe house. Her body and mind were done. She showered in the bathroom that was bigger than her kitchen, using products that smelled like heaven and probably cost a fortune. The water pressure was perfect. The towels were so soft they felt like being wrapped in a cloud. She found pajamas in one of the dresser drawers. Simple cotton, her size, comfortable. Someone had thought of everything. The bed was as comfortable as it looked. Amara sank into it, feeling her muscles unclench for the first time in she couldn't remember how long. But sleep didn't come immediately. Instead, she lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Kang Jiwon's eyes. The way he'd looked at her after she'd translated. Like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Like she mattered. No one had looked at her like that since Mrs. Kim died. And that terrified her more than Kozlov's threats ever could. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to close. For a moment she didn't know where she was. The bed was too comfortable. The room was too quiet. The air smelled like expensive things instead of the mildew that plagued her studio apartment. Then memory crashed back. The conference room. The Russian. Kang Jiwon's dark eyes and dangerous smile. She checked her phone. 8:47 a.m. She'd slept for 9 hours straight. 9 hours. She couldn't remember the last time she'd slept more than 4. Missed calls and texts flooded her screen. Patricia from the cleaning company, angry that she'd abandoned her shift. The diner manager wondering where she was. Her friend Keisha, worried because Amara always answered her texts. Amara started to respond when someone knocked on her door. "Miss Bennett." Mrs. Cho's voice. "Mr. Kang would like to speak with you. Breakfast is ready if you'd like to join him." Amara's stomach fluttered. She wasn't ready to face him. Wasn't ready to deal with whatever came next. But she couldn't hide forever. "I'll be down in 10 minutes, she called back. She dressed in clothes from the closet. Jeans that fit perfectly, a soft gray sweater, simple but expensive. There was even a selection of shoes. She chose sneakers, needing something that felt like herself. The bathroom mirror showed her a woman who looked more rested than she'd been in years, but whose eyes still carried uncertainty. "You can do this," she told her reflection in Korean. "용기를 내." Be brave. Mrs. Cho met her in the hallway and led her to a sunroom on the main floor. One wall was entirely windows, overlooking the gardens and the city beyond. A table was set for 2, laden with food, American breakfast items, Korean dishes, fruit, coffee, juice. And sitting at the table reading something on a tablet was Kang Jiwon. He'd traded the suit for dark jeans and a black cashmere sweater. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd recently showered. The dragon tattoo was visible above his collar, its scales catching morning light. He looked up when she entered, and for a moment, Amara saw something unguarded in his expression. Something that might have been relief. "Amara. Good morning. Did you sleep well?" "Yes. Too well." She moved to the table hesitantly. All of this is too much." He smiled slightly. "Probably. But you've been working yourself to death on 3 jobs and no sleep. Consider it compensation for the inconvenience of being relocated. It's more than that." "Yes." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please. Sit. We have things to discuss." Amara sat, feeling out of place despite the comfortable clothes and the good night's sleep. She was acutely aware of every move she made, every word she spoke. Jiwon poured her coffee without asking if she wanted it, adding cream and sugar in amounts that suggested he somehow knew how she liked it. I had Marcus complete his investigation, he said, his tone conversational. Would you like to know what he found? Amara's hands tightened on the coffee mug. I assume everything I told you was verified. It was. Amar Bennett. Born in Atlanta. Mother died when you were 7. Car accident, drunk driver. Father unknown, not listed on birth certificate. You entered Georgia foster care at 7, bounced between 6 homes before the Kims took you in at 13. He spoke from memory, not reading from notes. The Kims, Miho and Sajin. Originally from Seoul, immigrated in the 90s. They had a daughter, Yoonji, who died of leukemia at age 12. They applied to foster a year later. Amara's throat tightened. They wanted to fill the hole she left. They wanted to love someone who needed loving, Jiwon corrected gently. And they chose you. You lived with them for 3 years. Perfect school attendance. Straight as. You learned Korean, learned to cook Korean food, learned their culture. He paused. And then Mrs. Kim got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they found it. She died 6 months later. Mr. Kim couldn't manage caring for her and fostering you. You went back into the system for 4 months until you aged out at 18. Jiwon's voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes were kind. You worked 3 jobs to put yourself through community college. Got your associate's degree in linguistics. And then nothing. Amara looked down at her coffee. I couldn't afford a 4-year university. Student loans were maxed out. So I just kept working. Kept surviving. 3 jobs. Barely making rent. No health insurance. No savings. Jiwon set down his tablet. Do you know what impressed me most about Marcus's report? That I'm exactly as boring as I seem? He smiled. That there's nothing there. No criminal record. No debts beyond student loans. No drama, no scandals, no red flags. He leaned forward slightly. In my world, everyone has secrets. Everyone has angles. Everyone wants something. But you're exactly who you claim to be. A woman who learned Korean from a family she loved, who works herself to exhaustion to survive, who spoke up in that conference room because it was the right thing to do. Why does that impress you? Because it's rare. Because in a world full of people trying to use me, manipulate me, get close to me for what I can give them. He paused. You didn't even know who I was. You just saw someone being lied to and decided to help. Amar met his eyes. You're making me sound noble. I'm not. I was scared. I almost walked away. But you didn't. No. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a moment. Amara tried the food, scrambled eggs that were perfect, bacon that was crispy, kimchi fried rice. That tasted like home. I have news about Kozlov, Jiwon said after a while. He left LA last night. Took a private flight to Moscow. But what? He left people behind. Associates who work independently. They don't know all the details, but they know someone exposed him. They know you're Korean-speaking and black. That's a distinctive combination in our circles. His expression was grave. Marcus intercepted chatter this morning. They're looking for you. Fear spiked cold through Amara's chest. What kind of looking? The kind where they want to make an example. Send a message that interfering with Kozlov's business has consequences. Jiwon's voice was gentle but honest. I'm telling you this not to scare you, but so you understand why the protection isn't optional. How long? Unknown. Could be days. Could be weeks. We're working to identify Kozlov's remaining people in LA and handle the situation. Handle the situation. Amara understood what that meant. She was living in a world where handling situations meant violence. Disappearances. Things she'd only seen in movies. What does that mean for me? She asked quietly. It means you stay here. Safe. Protected. Jiwon paused. It also means we need to talk about what comes after. After the threat is neutralized. After you're safe to return to your life. He studied her. Do you want to return to 3 jobs and no sleep? To barely surviving? I don't have much choice. You do now. Jiwon set down his coffee cup. I need someone who speaks Korean. Someone who can move through spaces unnoticed. Someone I can trust. Amara's heart skipped. You're offering me a job. Yes. Doing what? Translating. Interpreting. Attending meetings where Korean is spoken and giving me accurate information about what's really being said. He paused. Last night proved that even my vetted translator can be compromised or scared into lying. But you had nothing to gain and everything to lose, and you still told me the truth. You want me to be your translator. I want you to be more than that. An advisor. Someone who understands Korean culture at a level I can trust. Someone who can tell me when I'm being lied to, when I'm being disrespected, when something's wrong. His eyes were intense. I'll pay you $15,000 a month. Health insurance. Housing allowance. And your job will be to speak truth to me even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable. Amara's mind reeled. $15,000 a month. That was more than she made in 6 months at her 3 jobs combined. That's too much, she whispered. It's what you're worth. What the job is worth. Jiwon's voice was firm. Think about it. You don't have to decide now. But know that the offer is real. And it comes with no strings attached beyond doing the work well. Why? Amara asked. Why me? You could hire professional translators, cultural consultants. Because professionals can be bought. Can be intimidated. Can be compromised. He leaned forward. You walked into that room as a janitor. You had every reason to stay silent. And you spoke anyway, knowing it might cost you. That kind of integrity can't be hired. It's either there or it isn't. He stood, moved to the window. My grandmother raised me in Busan until I was 8. Then my father brought us here to LA to expand the family business. I learned English, learned American ways. But Korean was always my first language. My true language. The language of my heart. He turned back to her. When you spoke last night, you didn't just translate words. You understood nuance. You caught insults that a textbook translator would miss. You spoke like someone who learned Korean from love, not from classes. Amara's throat was tight. Mrs. Kim used to say that language is the soul of culture. That you can't truly understand Korean culture without understanding the language at a deep level. She was right. Jiwon moved back to the table. So here's what I'm proposing. Stay here while the threat is active. Use the time to rest, to think, to decide if you want the job. If you do, we'll set up a trial period. 3 months, see if we work well together. If you don't, I'll still ensure your safety and help you transition back to whatever life you choose. He paused. But either way, you'll never have to work 3 jobs and sleep in your car again. Not if I can help it. You don't owe me. Yes, I do. You saved my grandmother's life. Maybe my life. That creates a debt I take seriously. Before Amara could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. I have to handle something. Business that can't wait. He stood. Make yourself at home. The house is yours. Mrs. Cho can show you around. The library has books in Korean if you want to read. There's a gym, a pool, a home theater. He hesitated. And if you need anything at all, you call me. Use the number I gave you last night. He started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. I'm having dinner brought in tonight. 8 p.m. I'd like you to join me. Not business. Just 2 people sharing a meal. Will you? It wasn't really a question, but the way he asked, almost tentative, almost hopeful, made it feel like one. Okay, Amara said. 8 p.m. His smile was small but genuine. Thank you. Then he was gone, and Amara sat alone in the sunroom, surrounded by luxury she'd never imagined, contemplating a job offer that would change her life, and trying very hard not to think about the way Kang Jiwon's eyes softened when he looked at her. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended reality. Amara spent her days exploring the house, reading books from Jiwon's extensive library, swimming in the infinity pool that overlooked the city. Mrs. Cho brought meals that were always perfect, always thoughtful. At night, she and Jiwon had dinner together. Conversations that ranged from childhood memories to philosophy to the strange experience of living between 2 cultures. He never touched her. Never crossed boundaries. But the air between them crackled with something she couldn't name. Awareness. Interest. The slow build of connection between 2 people who were learning each other. On the 3rd day, Jiwon had business in the city. Marcus and 2 other guards accompanied him, leaving Amara with Mrs. Cho and additional security outside the property. She was restless. 3 days of luxury felt like a cage lined with silk. She missed. What? Working herself to death? Barely scraping by? No. But she missed feeling useful. Missed purpose. She found Mrs. Cho in the kitchen preparing ingredients for dinner. Can I help? Amara asked in Korean. Mrs. Cho looked up surprised. You cook. Mrs. Kim taught me. I'm not as good as you, but I know the basics. Mrs. Cho's smile was warm. Come then. We'll make bibimbap together. Mr. Kang loves it, though he rarely admits it. They worked side by side, Amara chopping vegetables while Mrs. Cho prepared the meat and rice. The rhythm was soothing, familiar. The smell of sesame oil and garlic filled the kitchen. You speak Korean very well, Mrs. Cho said after a while. Natural, like someone born to it. Mrs. Kim was a good teacher. Patient. She must have loved you very much to teach you so thoroughly. She did. Amara's voice caught. She used to call me Ritar. Our daughter. Mrs. Cho's hand touched hers briefly. You still carry her in your heart. It's good. Love doesn't die just because people do. They finished preparing the meal in comfortable silence. Amara was arranging the vegetables in the bowls when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then a voice, Russian accented, speaking English. You think you're safe, Divachka? You think Kang can protect you forever? Amara's blood turned to ice. Who is this? Someone who remembers your face. Someone who's coming for you. The voice was cold, amused. When you least expect it. When you're alone. We'll find you. And we'll make you wish you'd stayed silent. The line went dead. Amara stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her hand shaking. Miss Bennett. Mrs. Cho's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? I need to call Mr. Kang. He pulled up his number, the private one. He answered on the first ring. Amara? What's wrong? Someone just called me. Russian. They threatened. Her voice shook. They said they're coming for me. That you can't protect me forever. The silence on the other end was absolute. Then, where are you right now? In the kitchen with Mrs. Cho. Stay there. Lock the door. Marcus is 3 minutes out. I'm 10 minutes behind him. His voice was deadly calm. Don't open the door for anyone except Marcus. Understand? Yes. I'm sorry, Amara. I thought we'd intercepted all the threats. I was wrong. He paused. But I promise you, whoever called you just made the last mistake of their life. He hung up. Mrs. Cho had already moved to the kitchen door, locking it. She pulled out her own phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone. Additional security, Amara realized. You're safe here, Mrs. Cho said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The house is a fortress. They can't get in. How did they get my number? Amara whispered. I don't know. But Mr. Kang will find out. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Then she heard the sound of a car, voices, rapid Korean being exchanged. A knock on the door. Miss Bennett, it's Marcus. I'm coming in. Mrs. Cho unlocked the door. Marcus entered with 2 other guards, all armed, all moving with military precision. Your phone, Marcus said, holding out his hand. Amara gave it to him. He did something with it, removing the SIM card, examining something, then handed it back. They spoofed the number. Untraceable. But they got your number from somewhere. His jaw was tight. We're sweeping the property now. Checking for breaches. How did they? We'll figure it out. Right now you stay inside. Don't go near windows. Don't leave this room until Mr. Kang gets here. The next 7 minutes were excruciating. Amara sat at the kitchen table, Mrs. Cho beside her, while guards moved through the house with weapons drawn. Then she heard his voice. Jiwon, speaking rapid Korean, his tone absolutely lethal. He appeared in the kitchen doorway and Amara's breath caught. He looked different. The careful control was gone, replaced by something raw and dangerous. His eyes found hers immediately. Are you hurt? No. Just scared. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides and did something completely unexpected. He pulled her into his arms. Held her against his chest, one hand in her hair, the other around her waist. She could feel his heart hammering, could smell his cologne mixed with something sharper. Adrenaline. Fear. I'm sorry, he said against her hair, speaking in Korean. Miane. I thought you were safe. I thought we had more time. Amara let herself lean into him for just a moment, let herself feel protected instead of scared. Then she pulled back gently. I'm okay. Really? His hands framed her face, his eyes searching hers. They called you. Got your private number. That means they have resources I didn't account for. His jaw clenched. That ends now. He turned to Marcus. Full lockdown. No one in or out without my explicit approval. Double the guard rotation. And find out how they got her number. Check everyone. Staff, vendors, everyone who's had access to this property in the last week. Boss, if we go full lockdown, I don't care what it costs. I don't care who we inconvenience. Jiwon's voice was absolute. She doesn't get another threat. She doesn't get another moment of fear. Whatever it takes. Marcus nodded and left, barking orders into his radio. Jiwon looked back at Amara. You're moving. Tonight. Different property. More secure. Only Marcus, Mrs. Cho, and I will know the location. You can't just keep moving me. Yes, I can. And I will. Until every single person who thinks they can threaten you is eliminated. His eyes were fierce. You saved my family. I protect my family. That means you now. I'm not your family. You are. The words were simple, absolute. The moment you spoke up, the moment you risked yourself for me, you became mine to protect. And I take care of what's mine. There it was again. That possessive declaration that should have felt threatening but instead felt safe. What if I don't want to be yours? Amara asked quietly. Jiwon's expression softened slightly. Then I'll still protect you. But I'll try to respect your boundaries while doing it. He paused. Do you want to not be mine? The question hung between them. Loaded. Dangerous. Amara thought about the last 3 days. The dinners where he'd listened to her talk about Mrs. Kim like her stories mattered. The way he'd made sure she had Korean books to read, Korean food to eat. The careful way he'd never touched her, never crossed lines until this moment when her safety was threatened. I don't know, she admitted. This is all happening so fast. 3 days ago I was a janitor. Now I'm in hiding, getting death threats, being offered jobs I don't understand. Then take time to figure it out. But take that time somewhere safe. He stepped back, giving her space. Pack what you need. We leave in an hour. As he moved toward the door, Amara spoke. Jiwon. He turned. It was the first time she'd used his first name. Thank you. For taking this seriously. For protecting me. His eyes softened. Always. For as long as you need it. Longer. Then he was gone and Amara stood in the kitchen with Mrs. Cho, her heart racing, her mind spinning, knowing that she'd just crossed another invisible line. She'd called him by his first name. And he'd called her his. The new property was in Malibu. A beach house built into the cliffs, accessible only by a private road that required passing through 3 security checkpoints. The ocean crashed against rocks below, the sound constant and soothing. It was smaller than the house in the hills. More intimate. 2 bedrooms instead of a guest wing. A kitchen that opened into a living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. A deck where you could sit and watch the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. It's beautiful, Amara said as Jiwon showed her around. It's secure. That's what matters. He gestured to her room. You'll be here. I'm across the hall. Mrs. Cho has the guest house out back. Marcus and 2 guards are in rotation outside. The bedroom was lovely, simple, clean with white linens and driftwood furniture. French doors opened onto a small balcony overlooking the ocean. I feel like I'm in witness protection, Amara said, trying to lighten the mood. You essentially are. Jiwon's expression was serious. Kozlov's people are more resourceful than I anticipated. They're not giving up. What happens when they find this place too? They won't. This property isn't in my name. The ownership is buried under 3 shell companies. No paper trail. He paused. You're safe here. I promise. You can't promise that. Watch me. They stood in silence for a moment, the sound of the ocean filling the space between them. I should let you settle in, Jiwon said finally. Dinner is at 7 if you're hungry. Nothing fancy, Mrs. Cho's making. My favorite, Amara said without thinking. His eyebrow raised. I know. She told me. After he left, Amara unpacked her few belongings. The clothes he'd provided, her phone, the picture of Mrs. Kim. She sat on the bed looking out at the ocean trying to process everything. 3 days ago her biggest worry was making rent. Now she was hiding in a Malibu beach house, protected by armed guards, being offered a job that paid more than she'd ever dreamed of. And falling for a man who commanded empires and spoke death like poetry. Because that's what was happening, she realized. She was falling. Had been falling since that first moment when he'd looked at her like she mattered. Like she was more than just the janitor. Like she was someone worth knowing. It was stupid. Dangerous. A fantasy that would end badly. But her heart didn't seem to care about logic. That evening she joined Jiwon for dinner on the deck. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and pink and orange. The dinner was perfect, rich and savory with tofu that melted on her tongue. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Jiwon spoke. Tell me about Mrs. Kim. What was she like? Amara smiled, memory warming her. Stubborn. Kind. She had this way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world when she looked at you. She paused. She used to say that family wasn't about blood. It was about choice. About showing up. About love that persisted even when it was hard. Sounds like she was wise. She was. She taught me that I didn't have to accept the story the world told about me. That being a black girl in foster care didn't define my worth. That I could choose who to become. What did you choose? Amara thought about that. I chose to survive. To be independent. To never need anyone because needing people meant they could hurt you. She looked at him. But lately I'm wondering if I chose wrong. If surviving isn't the same as living. Jiwon set down his chopsticks. You didn't choose wrong. You chose what you needed at the time. But maybe now. He paused. Maybe now you can choose something different. Like what? Like trusting someone. Like accepting help. Like believing that not everyone who offers you something wants to take from you in return. Is that what you're doing? Offering without wanting something back? No. His honesty surprised her. I want things. I want your skills, your intelligence, your perspective. I want someone I can trust in a world where trust is the rarest commodity. He met her eyes. But I also want you safe. Happy. Rested. And I'll make sure you have those things whether you work for me or not. Why? Because you spoke up when you didn't have to. Because you reminded me that courage still exists. Because. He stopped, seemed to reconsider his words. Because you matter. To me. And I protect what matters. The sunset painted him in warm light. Made him look less like a crime lord and more like just a man. A complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man. I'm thinking about accepting your job offer, Amara said quietly. Yeah. But I have conditions. Name them. I want everything in writing. Contract, salary, benefits, all of it. I want to know exactly what I'm agreeing to. She paused. And I want your promise that if I say no to something, anything, you'll respect that. No pressure. No manipulation. No using my safety or my need as leverage. Jiwon's expression was serious. Agreed. Anything else? If it doesn't work out, if I'm not good at this or if it's not what I thought, I can walk away. No retaliation. No making my life difficult. You have my word. He extended his hand across the table. Do we have a deal? Amara looked at his hand. Strong, scarred, capable of violence but currently offering partnership. She thought about Mrs. Kim's voice. Family is about choice. She was choosing this. Choosing him. Choosing to trust despite every instinct that screamed it was dangerous. She took his hand. Deal. His grip was warm, firm. He held on a moment longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a touch that felt almost intimate. Thank you, he said. For trusting me. I won't let you down. As the sun finally set and darkness claimed the ocean, they sat together on the deck, hands still loosely joined, and Amara felt something shift inside her. She was still scared. Still uncertain. Still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But for the first time in years she felt something else too. Hope. 4 days at the Malibu house passed in a strange rhythm. Mornings, Amara would wake to the sound of waves and find coffee already brewing in the kitchen. Jiwon's doing, though he never mentioned it. They'd have breakfast together, conversations flowing easily between English and Korean, between personal history and philosophical debates. Afternoons, Jiwon worked from the house, conducting business via encrypted video calls while Amara explored the beach, read or helped Mrs. Cho in the kitchen. The older woman had become a quiet ally, teaching Amara recipes and sharing stories about Jiwon that made him seem more human, more real. He was a gentle boy, Mrs. Cho said one afternoon as they prepared before his father brought him to America. In Busan with his grandmother he would spend hours drawing, painting. He wanted to be an artist. Amara tried to imagine Jiwon, dangerous, controlled Jiwon as a boy with paintbrushes. What changed? Mrs. Cho's expression darkened. His father's world. The expectations. The violence. When you grow up seeing power exercised through fear, you learn to survive by becoming what others fear. She paused. But the gentle boy is still there. Buried deep. You can see him sometimes when he doesn't think anyone is watching. Amara thought about that as she worked, hands deep in salted cabbage, the familiar burn of gochugaru on her skin. She'd seen glimpses of that gentleness. The way Jiwon made sure she had books in Korean. The way he'd held her after the threatening phone call. The way his eyes softened when he thought she wasn't looking. That evening after dinner they sat on the deck watching the sunset. The sky was spectacular, layers of orange, pink and purple bleeding into each other like watercolors. I need to ask you something, Jiwon said suddenly. Amara turned to him. Okay. My grandmother. In Busan. She's. He paused, seeming to struggle with words. She's the reason I do all of this. The protection, the control, the careful management of threats. When Kozlov mentioned her, when he threatened her, his jaw tightened. She's 83. She raised me. She's the only family I have left that I actually care about. What happened to the rest? My father died 5 years ago. Heart attack, though I suspect someone helped it along. My mother died when I was young. Cancer. He stared out at the ocean. I have cousins, uncles, people who share my blood. But they're part of the business. The organization. They see me as the head of the family, not as Jiwon. Not as a person. That sounds lonely. It is. He looked at her. But my grandmother. She still sees the boy who wanted to paint. She still calls me like I'm 8 years old. She still scolds me for not eating enough vegetables. Mar smiled. She sounds wonderful. She is. Jiwon pulled out his phone. She wants to meet you. Or at least see you. Talk to you. She heard about what happened, about how you warned me about Kozlov's threat against her, and she's been asking about you every day. You told her about me? I tell her everything. She's. He paused. He's my conscience. My reminder of who I was before all this. And when I told her about you, about your Korean, about how you learned from a foster family you loved. His voice softened. She said she wants to thank you. In person would be better, but for now she wants to video call. Amara's heart raced. Now. If you're willing. But I understand if it's too much, if you're not ready. I'd love to meet her, Amara interrupted. Truly. Jiwon's smile was genuine, relieved. He dialed a number, switched to video, and within moments, a face appeared on the screen. She was beautiful. That was Amara's first thought. Jiwon's grandmother had the kind of beauty that transcended age. Fine bone structure, warm eyes, silver hair pulled back in a traditional style. She wore a hanbok in soft blue, and when she saw Jiwon, her entire face lit up. 지원아. Her voice was strong, full of affection. 얼굴 좀 보자. 너무 오래됐어. Let me see your face. It's been too long. 할머니, 잘 지내셨어? Jiwon's voice transformed, becoming softer, younger. I'm sorry I haven't called more. You're busy. I understand. But don't think you can sweet-talk me. Her eyes were sharp, teasing. Now where is she? Where is this woman who saved your life? Jiwon turned the phone so his grandmother could see Amara. The old woman's eyes widened slightly, taking in Amara's face, her features. Harmony, this is Amara Bennett, Jiwon said in Korean. Amara, my grandmother, Kang Jiwon. Amara bowed slightly, even though it was just a video call. 안녕하세요, 할머니. 만나서 반갑습니다. Hello, grandmother. It's nice to meet you. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. 아이고. You're Korean. It's beautiful. Perfect Seoul accent. Where did you learn? From my foster mother, Mrs. Kim Sojin. She and her husband raised me for 3 years. Amara's voice was steady despite her nervousness. She wanted me to understand Korean culture, to carry it with me even after I left their home. She taught you well. Better than well. Soyeon wiped at her eyes. Come closer. Let me see you properly. Jiwon moved closer, angling the phone so his grandmother could see Amara better. Beautiful, Soyeon said. Strong face. Good eyes. The kind of eyes that see truth. She looked at Jiwon. You said she speaks like someone from Seoul? Better than that. She speaks like someone who was loved in Korean. Who learned the language as a gift, not a lesson. Soyeon nodded approvingly. Mrs. Kim, your foster mother, she must have loved you very much to teach you so carefully. She did, Amara said, her throat tight. She used to call me Ritar. Our daughter. Even though it was just foster care, even though she knew I'd have to leave eventually. Love doesn't care about paperwork, Soyeon said firmly. She chose you. That makes you hers. Forever. She paused. And now you saved my grandson. Saved me from what he tells me. You heard threats and spoke up when you could have stayed silent. I couldn't let them hurt innocent people. Especially not grandmothers. Mar smiled. Mrs. Kim taught me that silence in the face of injustice is its own kind of sin. Soyeon laughed, delighted. I like this one, Yuna. She has a spirit. Fire underneath the gentleness. She leaned closer to the camera. Tell me, child, what do you think of my grandson? Amara felt her face heat. Beside her, Jiwon made a strangled sound. Hey, you can't just. I can ask whatever I want. I'm 83. That's my privilege. Soyeon's eyes twinkled. So, what do you think? Amara chose her words carefully, speaking in Korean. I think he's complicated. Dangerous but also kind. He carries weight that most people can't see. He protects fiercely because he's lost people he loved. And underneath all the control, all the power, he's still the boy who wanted to paint. Silence. Jiwon stared at her, something unreadable in his eyes. Seon smiled, satisfied. You see him. Really see him. Good. He needs someone who sees the boy, not just the man he had to become. She paused. Tell me about this Mrs. Kim. What was she like? For the next 20 minutes, Amara talked about her foster mother. About the way Mrs. Kim would wake her up with the smell of it. About learning to make kimchi on Sunday afternoons. About the Korean dramas they'd watch together, Mrs. Kim translating cultural nuances Amara wouldn't have understood otherwise. About the way Mrs. Kim had held her hand in the hospital during those final weeks, promising that love didn't end with death. That the language she'd given Amara, the culture she'd shared, would keep her alive in Amara's heart forever. She sounds like a woman I would have liked, Soyeon said softly. The kind of woman who understands that family is built, not born. She was, Amara agreed. And you carry her well. The way you speak, the respect in your words, the care you take with pronunciation. Soyeon's eyes were kind. She would be proud of you. For using the gift she gave you. For speaking up when it mattered. Tears pricked Amara's eyes. Thank you. That means more than you know. Now, Soyeon's tone shifted, becoming more serious. Juna, you're keeping her safe? Yes, 할머니. She's protected. I won't let anyone hurt her. Good. Because if that Russian pig or his people touch one hair on her head, you come get me. I'll fly there myself and show them what a Busan grandmother does to people who threaten her family. Despite the severity of the threat, Amara saw the love underneath it. Soyeon had already adopted her, already claimed her as worth protecting. I'll keep her safe, Jiwon promised. I swear it. I know you will. You're a good boy. Stubborn, too much like your father sometimes, but good. Soyeon's expression softened. Now I need to sleep. Old bones need rest. But Amara. Yes, 할머니. You call me anytime. If you need to talk, if you need advice, if my grandson is being stupid, which happens more than he admits, you call me. Understand. I understand. Thank you. And, don't wait so long to call next time. I won't be here forever. 할머니. I'm not being morbid. I'm being realistic. Now go. Take care of each other. The call ended and for a moment, Amara and Jiwon sat in silence. She liked you, Jiwon said finally. How can you tell? She called you family. She offered to fight Russians for you. She gave you permission to call her directly. He smiled. That's her way of saying you matter. That you're one of us now. One of you, Amara repeated. Your family. Yes. Jiwon turned to face her fully. Is that okay? I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But my grandmother doesn't give her approval lightly. She sees something in you. Something worth protecting. Worth keeping. The word keeping hung between them, weighted with meaning. I liked her too, Amara said softly. She reminds me of Mrs. Kim. That same kind of fierce love. The kind that doesn't ask permission, just claims you and dares the world to object. That's exactly what she's like. Jiwon's voice was warm. When I was young, other kids were afraid of her. She had a reputation in Busan. The woman who'd fought off loan sharks with a kitchen knife when they came for my grandfather's business. The woman who'd stood up to gangs, to corrupt officials, to anyone who threatened her family. She sounds formidable. She is. But she's also the woman who taught me to paint. Who told me stories about old Korea, about dragons and tigers and princesses who saved themselves. Who said that real strength wasn't about violence. It was about choosing gentleness when you had the power to destroy. Amara heard the ache in his voice. The longing for a simpler time, a simpler version of himself. You miss her, she said. Every day. I haven't been back to Busan in 2 years. Too dangerous. Too many people who'd see it as opportunity, either to attack or to ask for favors. He looked out at the ocean. But sometimes I dream about it. About walking along Houndy Beach with her. About eating yarmulke at the market. About being just Jiwon, not Kang Jiwon, not the head of the family. Just me. What's stopping you from going? Responsibility. The organization. The understanding that if I leave, if I show weakness, if I prioritize personal happiness over business. He paused. People die. Territory gets lost. Everything my father built, everything I've maintained, crumbles. That sounds exhausting. It is. He looked at her. But talking to her, seeing her face, it helps. Reminds me why I do this. Why I maintain control. Because if I don't, if I let the organization fall into the wrong hands, people like my grandmother become targets. Become collateral damage in other people's wars. Amara understood then. Really understood. Jiwon wasn't power hungry. He was trapped by responsibility, by love, by the understanding that his absence would create a vacuum that violent people would fill. She's lucky to have you, Amara said. I'm lucky to have her. She's the only person who knew me before all this. The only one who still sees the boy underneath. He hesitated. Until now. Until now. You see him too. The boy who wanted to paint. You said it earlier to my grandmother. How did you know about that? Mrs. Cho told me. But also, I see it in the way you look at art. The way you arrange things in your house. There's an aesthetic sense there, a care for beauty that doesn't fit the crime lord image. Jiwon smiled. I still paint sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep. Nothing good. Just colors. Abstracts. A way to quiet my mind. I'd like to see them sometime. Maybe I'll show you. He stood, offered her his hand. Come on. I want to show you something. She took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. They walked through the house to a room she hadn't entered before. His bedroom. It was simpler than she'd expected. Clean lines, minimal furniture. A bed that looked comfortable but not ostentatious. But one wall was covered in canvases. Abstracts like he'd said. Bold colors, reds and golds and deep blues. Some were violent, angry slashes of paint. Others were softer, more contemplative. All of them were raw, honest, the kind of art that came from emotion rather than technique. They're beautiful, Amara said. They're therapy. Jiwon moved to stand beside her. When the violence gets too much, when I start to lose myself in what I have to do, I paint. I let it out on canvas instead of people. That's incredibly healthy, actually. My therapist agrees. Amara turned to him, surprised. You have a therapist? Twice a month via encrypted video. Dr. Sarah Chin. Korean American, specializes in trauma and moral injury. She's been helping me navigate the cognitive dissonance of being someone who wants to be good but does terrible things. He paused. I'm not a monster, Amara. But I've done monstrous things. I'm trying to find a way to live with that. To be better where I can be, to minimize harm where I can't avoid it. The honesty was devastating. Amara saw the struggle in his eyes, the genuine desire to be more than what his world demanded. "You're not a monster," she said softly. "Monsters don't question themselves. They don't go to therapy or paint to process emotions or protect people who can't protect themselves. You don't know everything I've done. No. But I know what you're doing now. And that matters." Jiwon looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek, warm and gentle. "You make me want to be better," he said quietly. "Not just for my grandmother. Not just for the organization. For you. So that when you look at me you see someone worth knowing." Amara's breath caught. They were standing too close, the air between them charged with something electric, something inevitable. "I already see that," she whispered. Yeah. The moment stretched, tension building like a wave about to break. Jiwon's hand was still on her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. His eyes dropped to her lips, then back up. "I want to kiss you," he said. "But I won't unless you want it too. Unless you're sure. Because once I start I'm not going to want to stop. And I need to know you're choosing this. Choosing me. Not because I'm protecting you, not because you feel obligated, but because you want it." Amara's heart hammered. This was a line. Once crossed, there was no going back. They'd go from employer-employee, from protector-protected, to something far more complicated. But she'd been thinking about this for days. About the way he looked at her. About the careful distance he maintained until she invited him closer. About the fact that despite his power, despite his control over every other aspect of his world, he was giving her power over this. Over him. "I want it," she said. "I want you." Jiwon's eyes darkened. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up. And then his lips were on hers, and the world narrowed to this single point of connection. The kiss was soft at first. Almost tentative. Like he was afraid she'd break. Afraid this was a dream that would dissolve if he pushed too hard. But Amara had been alone for so long. Had been invisible for so long. And being seen, being wanted by someone who could have anyone but chose her. It ignited something fierce in her chest. She kissed him back harder, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, something between a groan and a sigh, and the kiss deepened. His other hand found her waist, pulling her against him. She could feel the lean muscle of his body, could feel his heart racing as fast as hers. Could taste whiskey on his tongue, could smell his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jiwon rested his forehead against hers. "들으시가옥서," he whispered in Korean. "I can't erase you. 예 지우고 싶어." Why would you want to? Because wanting you is dangerous. For both of us. Because the closer you get, the more of a target you become. Because loving me has never ended well for anyone. "I'm not anyone," Amara said firmly. "I'm me. And I'm choosing this with eyes wide open. I know you're dangerous. I know your world is violent. But I also know you're trying to be better. And I want to be there while you try." Jiwon kissed her again, slower this time. Savoring it. When he pulled back, his eyes were soft, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "Stay," he said. "Not because of the threat. Not because of the job. Stay because you want to be here. With me. I'm already here. For now. But when Kozlov's people are handled, when you're safe, when you have a choice again." He paused. "I'm asking you to choose this anyway. Choose me anyway." Amara thought about Mrs. Kim's words. Family is about choice. She was choosing him. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who painted his demons and protected his grandmother and looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years. "I choose you," she said. "For as long as you'll have me." Jiwon's smile was brilliant, transformative. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. Just two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances, choosing connection despite every reason to stay apart. They ended up on his couch, tangled together, kissing until the moon rose over the ocean and the house fell silent around them. And when Amara finally went to her own room, her lips swollen, her heart racing, she knew with certainty that she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She was falling in love with Kang Jiwon. And from the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd whispered her name like a prayer, he was falling too. 3 days after the kiss, everything changed again. Amara woke to the sound of raised voices. Not angry, excited. She pulled on a robe and padded out to the living room to find controlled chaos. Mrs. Cho was directing 2 guards carrying luggage. Marcus was on his phone, barking orders in Korean. And Jiwon stood in the center of it all, looking equal parts exasperated and delighted. "What's happening?" Mar asked. Jiwon turned and his expression shifted to something almost sheepish. "My grandmother is landing in 3 hours. But she decided she's coming to meet you in person. I tried to talk her out of it, but nothing stops me when I've made up my mind." The voice came from Jiwon's phone, which was propped on the counter on a video call. Soyeon's face filled the screen, her eyes twinkling. "I'm 83 years old. If I want to fly to America to meet the woman who saved my grandson's life, I'll do it. He can sulk all he wants. I'm not sulking. I'm worried about your safety." "My safety is fine. I have 4 bodyguards with me. Very serious men. Very intimidating." She paused. "Though I've already made them carry my shopping bags twice. They're less intimidating when they're holding handbags." Despite the chaos, Amara smiled. "You're coming all this way just to meet me? Of course. You're important to my grandson. That makes you important to me. And I want to see with my own eyes this woman who speaks Korean like a soul daughter and has enough courage to challenge Russian gangsters." "Hurry," Jiwon started. "Also, I haven't been to America in 5 years. I want to see the ocean. Eat some good Korean food that isn't in Busan. Spend time with my grandson before I'm too old to fly." Her voice softened. "Let me have this, Jiona. Let me meet her properly." Jiwon's resistance crumbled visibly. "Hey. But you follow all security protocols. Marcus's team stays with you at all times. And you don't leave the property without telling me." Yes. I'll be good." Soyeon's eyes found Amara through the screen. "I'll see you soon, child. We have much to talk about." The call ended and Jiwon ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of stress Amara was learning to recognize. "Are you okay?" she asked. "My grandmother is flying halfway around the world. Kozlov's people are still out there. And I'm trying to keep everyone I care about safe while also running an organization that doesn't forgive distraction." He looked at her. "I'm terrified. But also, I'm glad she's coming. She'll love you. And you'll love her. And maybe having her here will help me figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life." "What are you doing with your life?" "Trying not to screw up the best thing that's happened to me in years." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "Which is you, in case that wasn't clear." It was clear. Amara leaned into him. "Though I'm pretty sure your grandmother is going to have opinions about us." "Oh, she already does. She called me last night and spent 20 minutes telling me that if I hurt you, she'll disown me and adopt you instead." "She didn't." "She absolutely did. In graphic detail." Amara laughed and some of the tension in the house eased. The next 3 hours were a flurry of preparation. The house was already pristine, but Mrs. Cho insisted on deep cleaning everything anyway. Additional security arrived, positioning themselves around the property. Marcus coordinated with the airport team, ensuring Soyeon's arrival would be as secure as possible. And Amara was nervous. She'd spoken to Soyeon via video, but meeting her in person felt different. This was Jiwon's grandmother. The woman who'd raised him, who'd shaped who he was underneath all the violence and power. Her opinion mattered. Her approval mattered. What if Amara wasn't good enough? What if Soyeon saw her as just a janitor who'd lucked into proximity to wealth? "Stop spiraling." Jiwon appeared beside her on the deck where she'd been pacing. "I can literally see your thoughts eating themselves." "I'm not spiraling. You're pacing in patterns that suggest advanced anxiety." He took her hands. "She already loves you. The meeting is a formality. She just wants to hug you in person and probably feed you too much food. What if she changes her mind when she meets me? What if I'm not what she expected? Then she adapts. But she won't change her mind." Jiwon's voice was confident. "Do you know how I know?" "How?" "Because she told me that you speak Korean like someone who was loved in Korean. That's the highest compliment she can give. It means she sees Mrs. Kim's love in the way you speak. In the care you take with pronunciation, with respect, with cultural nuance. You can't fake that. You either have it or you don't. And you have it." Amara took a breath, trying to let his certainty calm her. "Besides," Jiwon added with a slight smile, "she's already threatened to adopt you if I mess this up." That means you're stuck with us. Both of us. The car arrived at noon. Amara watched from the deck as a black SUV pulled up as guards emerged first, scanning the area. Then Marcus opened the rear door and a small figure stepped out. Sun was tiny in person, barely 5 feet tall, delicate-looking in a beautiful hanbok of deep purple silk. But the way she moved, the way she surveyed the property with sharp eyes, radiated a presence much larger than her physical form. Jiwon went down to meet her, and Amara watched as he bent to embrace his grandmother, as she cupped his face in her hands and said something that made him smile. The tenderness between them was beautiful, honest. Then Soyeon looked up at the deck and saw Amara. Their eyes met across the distance, and Amara felt herself being assessed, measured, understood in a single glance. Seon smiled. And Amara knew somehow that she'd passed whatever test that glance had been. They came up to the deck together, Jiwon's hand supporting his grandmother's elbow. Up close, Soyeon was even more beautiful. Fine wrinkles around kind eyes, silver hair styled elegantly, a presence that commanded respect without demanding it. Amara bowed properly, deeply. 할머니, 뵙게 되어 영광입니다. 먼 길 오시느라 고생하셨습니다. Grandmother, it's an honor to meet you. You've had a long journey. Soyeon's eyes crinkled with delight. 아이고, 이렇게 예의 바른 아이를. Mrs. Kim taught you well. She reached out, took both of Amara's hands in hers. Let me look at you. She studied Amara's face for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded, satisfied. Good bone structure. Strong spirit in the eyes. And you bow like someone who understands respect, not just performs it. She squeezed Amara's hands. Kolme. Hug me properly. We're family now. No need for so much formality. Amara bent down. Soyeon was so small, and was pulled into a surprisingly strong embrace. The older woman smelled like jasmine and something else, something that reminded Amara achingly of Mrs. Kim. I'm glad you're here, Amara whispered. So am I, child. So am I. Soyeon pulled back, her eyes suspiciously bright. Now I've been on a plane for 13 hours. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I want to hear everything about you and my stubborn grandson. Mrs. Cho. Already prepared her. Mrs. Cho appeared with a tray of tea and traditional Korean sweets. Your room is ready whenever you need to rest. They settled on the deck, the ocean providing a soothing backdrop. Soyeon ate delicately, drank her tea, and listened as Amara talked about Mrs. Kim, about learning Korean, about her life in foster care and afterward. Jiwon sat beside them, quiet, watching his grandmother and the woman he was falling for interact with something like wonder in his eyes. So you work 3 jobs just to survive? Soyeon asked, her tone making it clear what she thought of that arrangement. I did. For all this. Amara gestured vaguely at the house, the guards, the whole situation. Before my grandson dragged you into his dangerous world. He didn't drag me. I chose to speak up. Because you're brave. And stupid. But mostly brave. Soyeon's eyes were sharp. Now he's offered you a job? Yes. Translator. Cultural advisor. Good. You should take it. Use the skills Mrs. Kim gave you. Make money. Build a life that doesn't require working yourself to death. She paused. But also be careful. My grandson's world is not kind. It's not safe. And people who get close to him have a tendency to become targets. I understand that. Do you? Soyeon's voice was gentle but firm. Do you understand that loving him, and I can see you're already halfway there, child, don't bother denying it, means accepting danger as part of your life? Means living with bodyguards and secure properties and the knowledge that someone out there wants to hurt him. Amara met her eyes. Mrs. Kim used to say that love worth having is love worth fighting for. That safety is an illusion but connection is real. That choosing to love someone despite the risks is the bravest thing a person can do. Soyeon's expression softened. She was wise, you're Mrs. Kim. And you carry her wisdom well. She looked at Jiwon. 인들유, 지원아. Are you prepared to protect her? To put her safety above business? Above territory? Above everything? Yes, Jiwon said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. Even if it costs you power? Position? Even then. Soyeon nodded slowly. Good. Because she's precious. The kind of person you find once in a lifetime if you're lucky. She turned back to Amara. And you, child. Are you prepared to love a man who's done terrible things? Who will continue to do terrible things because that's what his world demands? Can you accept him as he is, not as you wish he could be? Amara thought about the paintings in his room, about the therapy sessions, about the way he protected people who couldn't protect themselves, about the gentleness underneath the violence. I see who he is, she said quietly. All of it. The violence and the kindness. The control and the vulnerability. The monster and the boy who wanted to paint. And I choose all of it. I choose him. Soyeon's eyes filled with tears. 아이고. You really do see him. She reached out, touched Amara's face gently. Then you have my blessing. Both of you. Love each other well. Protect each other. And don't let the world make you hard. Stay soft where you can. It's harder, but it's worth it. Jiwon stood abruptly, moved to the railing, his shoulders tense. Amara saw him wipe at his eyes quickly. Soyeon smiled knowingly. He cries when he's happy. Always has. Since he was a boy. Won't admit it, but he does. I'm not crying, Jiwon called back, his voice rough. Of course not. It's just the ocean spray. In your eyes. While you're facing away from the ocean. Despite the emotion, Amara laughed. And after a moment, Jiwon did too. They spent the afternoon together. 3 people who'd found family in unexpected places. Seon told stories about Jiwon as a child. Stories that made him blush and protest but also smile. Amara shared memories of Mrs. Kim, of the Kim family, of learning to navigate Korean culture as a black girl in foster care. And slowly, piece by piece, Amara understood why Jiwon protected so fiercely. Why control mattered so much. Because this woman, small, fierce, infinitely loving, was his anchor. His reminder of who he was underneath everything he'd had to become. Losing her would destroy him. So he built fortresses, eliminated threats, controlled every variable he could to ensure she stayed safe. And now Amara was inside that fortress. Part of what he protected. Part of what he loved. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. That evening, after Soyeon had gone to rest, Jiwon found Amara on the deck. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For being yourself with her. For not trying to impress her or perform. For just being Amara. He pulled her close. She loves you already. I could see it. I love her too. She's incredible. She is. He kissed the top of her head. And she's right about everything. Loving me is dangerous. My world will try to hurt you. And I can't promise I can always protect you no matter how hard I try. I know. But I promise I'll try. Every day. With everything I have. His arms tightened around her. You're mine now. And I protect what's mine. Amara turned in his arms, looked up at him. And you're mine. Which means I protect you too. You don't have to. Yes, I do. That's how this works. We protect each other. She touched his face. You've spent so long being the one who protects everyone else. Let me share that burden. Let me stand with you instead of just behind you. Jiwon's eyes were suspiciously bright. You're going to ruin me. Make me soft. Good. You could use some softness. He kissed her then, deep and slow and full of promise. And when they pulled apart, both breathless, he whispered against her lips. 사랑해. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. The first time either had said it directly. Amara's heart skipped. 나도 사랑해. I love you too. Even though I'm dangerous? Even though my world is violent? Because you're trying to be better. Because underneath everything you're still the boy who paints. Because you love your grandmother and protect people who can't protect themselves and look at me like I'm the answer to every question you've been asking. Jiwon pulled her close again, his face buried in her neck. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. They stood like that as the sun set over the ocean, 2 people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances, choosing love despite every reason to walk away. And in her room, Soyeon smiled, watching through the window, thanking whatever gods were listening for bringing her stubborn grandson someone brave enough, strong enough and crazy enough to love him anyway. The attack came from an unexpected direction. 5 days after Soyeon's arrival, Jiwon received an invitation. The Korean American Business Association was holding their annual gala, a major networking event that brought together legitimate business owners and those whose operations existed in grayer areas. Jiwon attended every year, maintaining relationships, showing strength, ensuring everyone understood who held power in LA's Korean community. This year felt different. You don't have to go, Marcus said, reviewing security protocols in Jiwon's office. We can send representatives. No. Jiwon was firm. If I don't show, it looks like I'm hiding. Like Kozlov's threats worked. I go, I show strength, I remind everyone that attempting to intimidate me has consequences. Then we triple security. No one gets within 10 feet of you without being vetted. Marcus paused. And Miss Bennett stays here. Actually, Amara spoke from the doorway. Both men turned. I'd like to go. Absolutely not, Jiwon said immediately. Hear me out. Amara entered the office, her expression determined. I'm your new cultural advisor, right? Your translator? What better way to introduce me to the community than at the biggest Korean-American event of the year? It's too dangerous. Everything about your life is dangerous. If I'm going to be part of this, if I'm going to work with you, I need to be seen. I need to meet these people. Show them I'm capable, professional, not just. She paused. Not just the girlfriend hiding in safe houses. Jiwon's jaw tightened. You're not just anything. But Kozlov's people will be looking for an opportunity anyway. At least at the gala, you'll have home field advantage. Your security. Your community. People who owe you loyalty. Amara moved closer. I'm not saying I'm not scared. I am. But I'm also tired of hiding. And I think showing up together sends a message. That I'm under your protection, that I'm part of your organization, that anyone who touches me answers to you. Marcus made a thoughtful sound. She has a point, boss. Public declaration of protection at a major community event? That's about as clear a message as you can send. Jiwon looked at Amara, conflict clear in his eyes. If anything happens, it won't. Because you'll be there. Your team will be there. And I'll stay close. She took his hand. Let me do this. Let me step into your world properly instead of just observing from the sidelines. After a long moment, Jiwon nodded. Hey. But you follow every security protocol. You stay within arm's reach of me or Marcus at all times. And at the first sign of trouble, you go to the safe room Marcus will identify when we arrive. Agreed. And you'll need appropriate attire. This is formal. Very formal. Amara smiled. I think I can manage. Mrs. Cho and Soyeon took charge of Amara's preparation with enthusiasm that suggested they'd been waiting for exactly this opportunity. A Korean gala, Soyeon said, her eyes bright with excitement. You'll need a hanbok. A beautiful one. Something that shows respect for tradition but also shows you belong. I don't know if I should wear. Nonsense. Soyeon was already pulling out her phone, calling someone. You speak Korean beautifully. You understand the culture. You've earned the right to wear our traditional dress. And besides, she smiled mischievously, you in a hanbok will send a very clear message to the community. That you're not just some outsider. That you've been embraced by family. Within hours, a designer arrived with options. Amara tried on several before finding the one that felt right. A giagari in deep midnight blue with delicate silver embroidery, paired with a chima in the same shade. The colors made her dark skin glow, made her look regal and powerful and beautiful. When she emerged to show Jiwon, he went completely still. 지금 숨이 멎을 것 같아. He said softly. You're taking my breath away. Is it too much? It's perfect. You're perfect. He moved closer, taking in every detail. Do you know what wearing a hanbok means? To this community. That I respect the culture? That you're part of it. That you've been accepted. That you belong. His eyes were intense. Every person at that gala will see you and understand. She's his. She's family. She's protected. Is that what you want them to see? Yes. No hesitation. I want everyone to know you're mine. That touching you means going to war with me. That you're not just protected, you're cherished. Amara felt heat rise in her chest. Then let's go make it official. The gala was held at the Biltmore, one of LA's most historic hotels. The ballroom was spectacular, dripping with crystal chandeliers, filled with people in expensive suits and elegant hanboks. The air buzzed with conversation in Korean and English, deals being made, alliances being formed. Jiwon entered with Amara on his arm and the room noticed. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Eyes tracked their movement as they made their way through the crowd, Marcus and 4 other guards following at a discreet distance. Amara felt the weight of those stares. The curiosity. The judgment. Some faces showed surprise, others showed calculation, a few showed what looked like disapproval. A black woman in a hanbok on Kang Jiwon's arm was a statement. A declaration. And not everyone was happy about it. Ignore them, Jiwon murmured in Korean. They're just shocked. Give them time to process. And if they don't? Then they'll learn to keep their opinions to themselves. His hand tightened on hers. You belong here. With me. Let them think what they want. They were approached by various business owners, community leaders, people whose names Amara recognized from Marcus's briefings. Jiwon introduced her each time with the same words. This is Amara Bennett, my senior cultural advisor and translator. Some reacted with polite interest. Others with thinly veiled skepticism. But no one was openly rude, not with Jiwon's presence as deterrent. They were speaking with Mr. Park, who owned a chain of Korean barbecue restaurants, when Amara felt it. That prickle of awareness that said someone was watching with intent, not just curiosity. She scanned the room carefully, her heart rate picking up. And then she saw him. A man in his 30s, white, expensive suit, standing near the bar. He was staring directly at her, his expression cold, calculating. When their eyes met, he smiled. Predatory. Then he lifted his phone, took a photo and walked away. Jiwon, Amara said quietly in Korean. 3 o'clock. White male, dark suit. Just photographed me. Jiwon's expression didn't change, but she felt him tense. He murmured something to Marcus, who immediately moved toward the man. Stay close, Jiwon said. We're leaving soon. I just need to make a few more appearances, show strength, then we're gone. But before they could move, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the ballroom plunged into darkness. Screams erupted. Amara felt Jiwon's hand on her immediately, pulling her close, his body shielding hers. Marcus. Jiwon's voice cut through the chaos. Lockdown protocol. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. Amara's heart hammered as she heard shouting, movement, the sound of something crashing. Then gunfire. 3 sharp cracks that made everyone in the ballroom drop to the floor. Jiwon had Amara on the ground, his body covering hers completely, one hand on her head, the other reaching for the weapon she knew he carried. Stay down, he commanded. Don't move. Don't make a sound. More shots. Someone screaming. The acrid smell of gunpowder. Marcus's voice shouting in Korean, Boss, they're after her. 3 men, armed, moving toward your position. Jiwon cursed in Korean, fluid and vicious. Then he was moving, pulling Amara up, half carrying her toward a side exit. Behind them she heard fighting. The impact of fists on flesh. More gunshots. They burst through a service door into a hallway. Marcus appeared with 2 guards, weapons drawn. Kitchen exit, Marcus said. Cars there. Move. They ran through the service corridors, Amara's hanbok tangling around her legs, her heart in her throat. Behind them she could hear pursuit, heavy footsteps, shouted Russian. They reached the kitchen. Staff had already fled. The space was empty except for Marcus's team and 3 men appeared in the opposite entrance. Armed. Their weapons rising. Down. Jiwon threw Amara behind a steel prep table as gunfire erupted. The sound was deafening. Amara pressed her hands over her ears, her breath coming in panicked gasps. She could hear Jiwon and Marcus returning fire, could hear ricochets off stainless steel, could smell cordite and fear. Then a voice, accented English, shouting over the chaos. Give us the girl. Kozlov wants her alive. Give her to us and you all walk away. Over my dead body, Jiwon snarled back in Russian. More gunfire. Someone screamed. One of the attackers hit. Marcus appeared beside Amara. We're moving. Back door. Stay low. When I say run, you run. Understand? She nodded, unable to speak. Now. They burst out the back door into an alley. The black SUV was there, engine running. Marcus threw open the door, pushed Amara inside, dove in after her. Jiwon was last, turning to fire 2 more shots back into the kitchen before jumping in. Go. Go. Marcus shouted to the driver. The SUV peeled out, tires screaming on pavement. Through the rear window, Amara saw 2 men emerge from the kitchen, aiming, firing. The back window spiderwebbed but held. Bulletproof glass, Marcus said, breathing hard. We're okay. We're okay. Jiwon was beside her, his hands on her face, checking her for injuries. Are you hurt? Did anything hit you? No. I'm fine. Her voice broke. They tried to kill us. They tried to take you. There's a difference. Jiwon pulled her against his chest, his heart racing as fast as hers. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should never have brought you. This is my fault. No. Amara pushed back to look at him. This is Kozlov's fault. And whoever those men were. Not yours. Marcus was on his phone speaking rapid Korean. When he hung up, his expression was grim. 2 of their men down. 1 of ours injured but stable. The 3rd attacker got away. ID. Working on it. But boss. Marcus hesitated. This wasn't random. They knew we'd be there. They knew where you'd be positioned. Someone inside the association leaked our attendance. Jiwon's expression went cold. Absolutely lethal. Find them. I want names. I want everyone who knew we were attending. And I want to know who talked. Already on it. They drove in tense silence for several minutes. Then Jiwon's phone rang. He looked at the screen, frowned. It's the association president. Kim Dae-shik. He answered, his voice controlled. Yes. Amar could hear shouting on the other end. Jiwon listened, his jaw tightening, his eyes going flat and dangerous. I understand, he said finally. I'll be in touch. He hung up. What? Marcus asked. They want me to apologize. For bringing violence to their gala. For disrupting their event. Jiwon's laugh was bitter. I was attacked. My people were shot at. And they want an apology. What did you tell them? That I'll think about it. He looked at Marcus. Schedule a meeting. All the association leadership. Tomorrow. At my office. Boss, that's. Tomorrow. Jiwon's voice was absolute. It's time everyone understood exactly where the lines are. And what happens when those lines are crossed. Back at the Malibu house, Soyeon was waiting on the deck, her face tight with worry. When she saw them, relief flooded her features. 아이고, 괜찮아? Are you okay? We're fine. Jiwon helped Amara out of the car. Just shaken. Soyeon pulled Amara into a fierce embrace. I saw the news. Shooting at the Biltmore. I knew you were there. She pulled back, her eyes searching Amara's face. Are you truly unharmed? Yes. Jiwon protected me. Marcus got us out. Good. Good. Soyeon's hands trembled slightly. Come inside. You need tea. Food. Rest. Later, after Mrs. Cho had fussed over them and provided comfort food, after Soyeon had finally been convinced to go to bed, Amara stood on the deck with Jiwon, looking out at the dark ocean. This is my life, Jiwon said quietly. Shootings. Betrayals. Violence. This is what being with me means. I know. And you still want this? Amara turned to face him. They came for me tonight. Kozlov's people. They wanted me specifically. Not because of anything I did, but because I matter to you. Because hurting me hurts you. Yes. Then I'm already in this. Whether I'm officially with you or not, I'm a target now. The only question is whether I face that danger alone or with you. She took his hands. I choose with you. Every time. No matter how scary it gets. Jiwon pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world through sheer will. I will end Kozlov. I will find everyone who helped him. And I will make sure you never have to run from gunfire again. Don't make promises you can't keep. I don't. His voice was steel. This ends. And when it does, you'll be safe. I swear it. Amar believed him. Believed in the absoluteness of his commitment, the fierceness of his protection. But she also understood that safety was an illusion. That loving Kang Jiwon meant accepting danger as the price of connection. And she'd make that trade every single time. The meeting with the Korean American Business Association leadership was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. Jiwon spent the morning on phone calls, coordinating with Marcus, speaking to contacts throughout the community. Amara watched him work, seeing the kingpin emerge. This wasn't the gentleman who painted or the grandson who smiled at his grandmother's stories. This was Kang Jiwon in his element, commanding, strategic, absolutely certain of his power. You don't have to come, he said as he prepared to leave. This might get uncomfortable. I'm coming. Amara's voice was firm. They need to see me. Need to understand that last night didn't scare me away. That I'm still here, still standing with you. Jiwon studied her face. Then nodded. Hey. But you stay beside me the entire time. No matter what's said, no matter how anyone reacts. Agreed. They arrived at Jiwon's downtown office at 1:45 p.m. The building was one of his legitimate holdings, 30 floors of premium office space. His personal floor occupied the entire top level, with views that stretched from the ocean to the mountains. The conference room could seat 20. Today 12 men and 3 women sat around the table, the leadership of the association. All Korean or Korean American. All powerful in their own right. All watching with varying degrees of hostility as Jiwon entered with Amara. He took his seat at the head of the table. Amara sat to his right, Marcus to his left. Kim Dae-shik, the association president, spoke first. His Korean was formal, his tone cold. Mr. Kang. Thank you for meeting with us. We have concerns about last night's incident. As do I, Jiwon replied in Korean, his voice calm. An attack at one of our community's premier events is unacceptable. The attack seemed to target you specifically. Or rather, Dae-shik's eyes flicked to Amara, your companion. Miss Bennett is not my companion. She's my senior cultural advisor and translator. And yes, she was targeted by Russian organized crime because she helped me identify a threat to my family. Which he then brought to our event. Endangering all of us. I brought security. I followed all protocols. The attackers gained entry through someone else's negligence or cooperation. Jiwon's tone sharpened. Perhaps the association should investigate how armed men entered a supposedly secure venue. Murmurs around the table. Uncomfortable shifting. Nevertheless, Dae-shik continued, there are concerns. About your judgment. About bringing an outsider, he said the word with subtle emphasis, into our community spaces. About the message it sends. What message is that? Jiwon's voice was dangerously quiet. That you prioritize personal interests over community safety. That you're distracted. That your protection of this woman, again that emphasis, is making you weak. The room went silent. Amara felt Jiwon tense beside her. Felt the temperature drop as his control frayed. Weak, he repeated softly. You think protecting someone I care about makes me weak? I think your attachment to her is clouding your judgment. He's a liability, Jiwon. A black woman who speaks Korean. It's novel, certainly, but it's also conspicuous. Draws attention. Makes you vulnerable to exactly what happened last night. You're saying I should abandon her. Let Kozlov's people take her. Remove the liability. I'm saying you should prioritize the safety of this community over. Over what? Over the woman who saved my grandmother's life? Over someone who risked herself to help me when she had nothing to gain. Jiwon stood slowly. Let me be very clear about something. Amara Bennett is not a liability. She's not a distraction. He's mine. Under my protection. Part of my family. And anyone who suggests I should sacrifice her for the sake of optics can go straight to hell. Shocked silence. Dae-shik's face reddened. You're being emotional. I'm being honest. Jiwon's voice was steel. For years I've played by your rules. Attended your galas. Made donations. Helped community members when they needed it. I've been the dutiful member of this association. But last night when my people were under fire, when Amara was in danger, not one of you called to check if we were okay. Not one of you offered help. Instead, you scheduled a meeting to criticize my choices. He moved around the table slowly, his presence dominating the room. So here's what's going to happen. Amara stays. She works with me. She attends events with me. And anyone who has a problem with that can bring it directly to me. He paused. But understand this. If you come for her, if you disrespect her, if you in any way try to harm her or make her feel unwelcome in this community, you're not just crossing me. You're declaring war. And I promise you, his smile was cold, you don't want that war. One of the older women, Mrs. Song, spoke up. Her Korean was gentle but firm. Mr. Kang, no one is suggesting we harm her. But you must understand the position this puts us in. She's an outsider. The community talks. People have opinions. Then they can keep their opinions to themselves. Jiwon's tone softened slightly. Mrs. Song, you've known me since I was a child. You knew my grandmother when she first came to LA. You've always told me that Korean culture is about respect, about loyalty, about protecting family. Amar is my family now. Would you have me abandon family because of gossip? Mrs. Song's expression shifted, becoming thoughtful. No. But perhaps we need to understand her better. To see what you see. Jiwon looked at Amara. Would you be willing to speak? To help them understand. Amara's heart hammered. She hadn't prepared for this. But she nodded, stood slowly. 15 pairs of eyes fixed on her. Some curious, some hostile, all skeptical. She spoke in Korean, careful and clear. 저는 미국에서 태어난 흑인 여성입니다. 제 친어머니는 제가 7살 때 돌아가셨고, 저는 이탁 가정에서 자랐습니다. 13살 때, 김민호, 김소진 부부님 댁에 가게 되었습니다. I'm a black woman born in America. My biological mother died when I was 7 and I grew up in foster care. When I was 13, I went to live with Mr. and Mrs. Kim. She continued telling them about the Kim family. About learning Korean not from textbooks but from love. About Sunday dinners and Korean dramas and Mrs. Kim teaching her to make kimchi. About losing that family to cancer and spending years trying to honor the gift they'd given her. 김 여사님은 제게 한국어는 단순한 언어가 아니라 마음이라고 가르치셨습니다. 문화를 이해하는 방법이고, 존중을 표현하는 방법이며, 제가 속한 곳을 찾는 방법이라고요. Mrs. Kim taught me that Korean isn't just a language, it's a heart. A way to understand culture, to show respect, to find where you belong. 그래서 저는 여기 있습니다. 강 씨의 세계에 속하지 않는 일부인이 아니라 가족이 가르쳐준 것을 사용하려는 사람으로. 제가 그를 보호한 게 아닙니다. 올바른 일을 했을 뿐입니다. 김 여사님이 가르치신 대로. So I'm here not as an outsider who doesn't belong in Mr. Kang's world, but as someone trying to use what my family taught me. I didn't protect him. I just did the right thing. Like Mrs. Kim taught me. She paused, making eye contact around the table. 여러분이 저를 믿지 못하신다면 이해합니다. 저는 다르게 생겼습니다. 다른 배경을 가졌습니다. 하지만 김 여사님과 김 선생님이 제게 가르치신 한국 문화에 대한 사랑, 언어에 대한 존중, 가족을 보호하려는 의지, 그것만은 진짜입니다. I understand if you don't trust me. I look different. I come from a different background. But my love for Korean culture that the Kims taught me, my respect for the language, my desire to protect family, that's real. She looked at Jiwon. 그리고 강지원 씨는 제 가족입니다. 그를 보호하는 것은 제 선택이 아닙니다. 제 책임입니다. 김 여사님이 저를 선택하셨듯이 저도 그를 선택했습니다. 그리고 저는 이 선택 때문에 사과하지 않을 것입니다. And Kang Jiwon is my family. Protecting him isn't my choice. It's my responsibility. Just as Mrs. Kim chose me, I choose him. And I won't apologize for that choice. She sat down, her hands shaking slightly under the table. The silence that followed was different than before. Less hostile. More thoughtful. Mrs. Song spoke first. You speak beautifully, child. With the heart of someone who is truly loved in Korean. Thank you. And you're right. Family is choice. The Kims chose you. You chose them. Now you've chosen our Jiwon. She looked around the table. How can we fault that? Daeshik's expression was still skeptical, but some of the others were nodding. An older man, Mr. Cho, spoke up. My concern isn't about her character. It's about safety. If being with her puts Mr. Kang at risk. Being with her makes me stronger, Jiwon interrupted. She sees things I miss. She understands cultural nuances that even native speakers overlook sometimes. She's brilliant, brave, and yes, she's a target because of me. But that's my responsibility to handle. Not yours. And the Russians? Daeshik asked. Kozlov's people? How do you plan to end that threat? Jiwon's smile was cold. Let me worry about Kozlov. By the end of this week he won't be a problem anymore. For any of us. The meeting continued for another hour, moving to other business, but the hostility toward Amara had lessened. Not disappeared. Some faces still showed skepticism, but it had shifted from outright rejection to cautious acceptance. As they were leaving, Mrs. Song approached Amara. Child, you spoke well today. With dignity and respect. She paused. The Kims would be proud of you. Amara's eyes stung. Thank you. That means more than you know. And you, Mrs. Song looked at Jiwon. You protect her well. She's precious. But don't let the world make you hard toward her. I won't, Mrs. Song. I promise. In the car ride back to Malibu, Amara was quiet, processing everything. You were incredible in there, Jiwon said. The way you spoke, the way you made them see you, I'm in awe. I just told the truth. The truth delivered with perfect Korean and genuine emotion. You won them over. Even Daeshik looked less hostile by the end. Some of them will never accept me. Then they don't matter. He took her hand. The people who matter, my grandmother, Mrs. Song, the ones who see your value, they accept you. That's enough. Is it? It has to be. Because I'm not giving you up. Not for the association. Not for anyone. His grip tightened. You're mine. And I just declared that in front of the entire Korean-American business leadership. There's no going back now. Amara smiled. Good. Because I wasn't planning on going back anyway. That evening, as they sat on the deck with Soyeon watching the sunset, the older woman spoke. You handled that meeting well, both of you. Made your positions clear. Showed strength. You heard about it already? Jiwon asked. Mrs. Song called me. Told me everything. Seon smiled. She said Amara spoke like a daughter of Korea. That she defended you with the fierceness of a wife protecting her husband. Amara felt her face heat. I didn't mean to. You meant every word. And so did he. Soyeon looked between them. When are you going to make it official? Make what official? Jiwon asked, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what she meant. Marriage. The claiming was public today. But proper claiming requires proper commitment. Jiwon's hand found Amara's under the table. When the time is right, hurry. When Amara is ready. When the threats are gone and she can choose freely instead of from fear or obligation. I'm ready now, Amara said quietly. Both Jiwon and Soyeon turned to her. I don't need perfect timing or perfect safety. I just need you. She looked at Jiwon. I choose you. Today. Tomorrow. For as long as you'll have me. Jiwon's eyes were suspiciously bright. Are you saying? I'm saying yes. To whatever you're asking. To marriage, to partnership, to building a life together despite the danger and the violence and all the reasons it shouldn't work. Seon clapped her hands together, delighted. Finally. I was beginning to think you'd both talk yourselves out of happiness. Jiwon pulled Amara to her feet, his hands framing her face. I don't have a ring. I don't have a romantic plan. But I'm asking anyway. Amara Bennett, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my family? Will you stand with me through everything? The violence and the peace, the danger and the safety, all of it. Yes, Amara said, tears streaming down her face. Yes to all of it. Always yes. He kissed her then, deep and thorough, while Soyeon cheered and the sun set over the Pacific, and somewhere in the world, threats still existed, but in this moment, in this perfect, impossible moment, love won. The end came swiftly. 2 days after the engagement, Marcus brought news. They'd identified the leak. A junior member of the association who'd been bribed by Kozlov's people. They'd also located the remaining men who'd attacked the gala. And they'd found something even more valuable. Kozlov's location. He hadn't gone back to Moscow. He'd gone to Vancouver, thinking proximity to the US would let him coordinate revenge while staying out of Jiwon's immediate reach. He thought wrong. I'm going, Jiwon said, suiting up in tactical gear that Amara had never seen before. Marcus, 6 of our best men. We end this tonight. Let me come, Amara said. Absolutely not. Jiwon. No. His voice was firm but gentle. You've been brave enough. You've faced enough danger. This part, the violent part, the part where I become the monster I have to be to protect you, you don't need to see that. I know what you are. What you have to do. Knowing and witnessing are different. He pulled her close. Stay here. With my grandmother. With Mrs. Cho. Let me do this ugly thing so you never have to worry about Kozlov again. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. Nothing in this world could keep me from coming back to you. He kissed her deeply, desperately. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night with Marcus and his team. The wait was excruciating. Amara sat with Soyeon, drinking tea neither of them tasted, pretending to watch a drama neither of them saw. He'll be fine, Soyeon said. He's been doing this since he was 19. He knows how to survive. What if something goes wrong? What if Kozlov is expecting him? Then Jiwon adapts. He's brilliant at this, child. Terrifying but brilliant. Seon took her hand. Your job now is to be here when he returns. To remind him that he's more than the violence. That he has something, someone worth coming home to. The hours crawled by. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. At 3:17 a.m. Amara's phone rang. Jiwon's voice was tired but alive. It's done. Kozlov is dead. His remaining people in LA have been handled. You're safe now. Truly safe. Relief crashed through her so hard she couldn't speak. Amara? Are you there? I'm here. When are you coming home? 2 hours. Maybe less. I need to clean up first. Make sure everything is documented properly. But then I'm coming home. To you. I'll be waiting. He arrived at dawn, the sky bleeding pink and gold over the ocean. Amara met him on the deck, and the moment she saw his face, exhausted, haunted but relieved, she ran to him. He caught her, held her tight, his face buried in her hair. It's over, he whispered. Finally over. You're safe. We're safe. Did you? She didn't know how to ask. I killed him. Myself. I looked him in the eyes and I ended him. Jiwon's voice was hollow. And I'd do it again. 1,000 times. To keep you safe. I know. I know. She held him tighter. Come inside. Shower. Rest. Let me take care of you now. She led him upstairs, helped him out of his blood-stained clothes, ran hot water in the shower. Stood outside the glass while he washed away the violence, his hands trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline crash. When he emerged, she was waiting with clean clothes. Helped him dress like he was fragile, precious. They lay together on his bed, Amara holding him while he finally let himself break. Let the tears come. Let the weight of what he'd done, what he'd had to become, crash over him. I'm a monster, he whispered against her shoulder. I killed him without hesitation. Without mercy. I became exactly what my father was. No. Amara's voice was firm. Your father killed for power. For greed. You killed to protect. To end a threat. That's different. Is it? Yes. Because you feel this. You question it. You carry the weight. Monsters don't do that. Monsters don't go to therapy or paint or cry in their fiancé's arms. She tilted his face up to look at her. You did a terrible thing for a good reason. And you'll carry that. But it doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. Flawed and complicated and doing the best you can in an impossible situation. Jiwon kissed her then, desperate, grateful, clinging. I love you, he said. 사랑해. More than I thought possible. More than is probably healthy. 나도 사랑해. 엄마로 리플라이. And we're going to be okay. Together. They fell asleep tangled together, safe finally, truly safe for the first time since that night in the conference room. The wedding happened 3 weeks later. Small. Intimate. Just family and the people who mattered. Soyeon cried through the entire ceremony. Mrs. Cho and Mrs. Song prepared a feast. Marcus stood as Jiwon's best man, looking uncomfortable in a suit but genuinely happy. Amara wore a traditional hanbok in deep red, the color of love and prosperity. Jiwon wore traditional Korean formal wear, looking devastating and happy and more at peace than she'd ever seen him. They exchanged vows in Korean and English, promising to protect each other, to love each other through violence and peace, through darkness and light. When they bowed to Soyeon, receiving her blessing, the older woman placed her hands on both their heads. Be happy, she said in Korean. Love each other fiercely. And don't forget that underneath everything, the power, the violence, the responsibilities, you're just two people who chose each other. Never lose sight of that. We won't too, Jiwon promised. The reception was held at the Malibu house, overlooking the ocean where they'd first fallen in love. Korean food and American food, traditional and modern, mixing like their lives were mixing. At sunset, Jiwon led Amara down to the beach. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a black pearl set in platinum. Black pearl for the woman who taught me that beauty comes in unexpected forms. That strength isn't about controlling everything, it's about choosing to be vulnerable with the right person. He slipped it on her finger beside her engagement ring. You saved me, Amara. Not just from Kozlov. From myself. From becoming the monster I was afraid I'd already turned into. And you saved me, Amara replied. From invisibility. From believing I had to survive alone. From thinking love wasn't worth the risk. They stood at the water's edge as the sun painted the sky in impossible colors. Two people from different worlds who'd found each other against all odds. The janitor and the kingpin. The woman who learned Korean from love and the man who'd forgotten how to be gentle. They'd built something impossible, something beautiful, something that shouldn't have worked but did anyway. Because love didn't care about logic. Love didn't care about danger. Love just was. And they chose it. Every day. Every moment. Together. Amara stood in her new office in Jiwon's building, looking out over Los Angeles. The city sprawled below, familiar now, home in a way it had never been when she was just surviving. The transition hadn't been seamless. Learning the business, navigating the politics of Jiwon's organization, dealing with people who still saw her as an outsider. It all took work. But she was good at it. Better than she'd expected. Her Korean was an asset. Her ability to move through different cultural spaces, to translate not just language but meaning, made her invaluable. Within 3 months, Jiwon was bringing her to every major meeting, trusting her read on people, her insights. The diner had been shocked when she quit. Patricia had accused her of abandoning her responsibilities. But Amara had walked away with her head high, knowing she was moving toward something better. Her apartment in Koreatown sat empty now. She'd moved into the Palos Verdes estate with Jiwon. A sprawling property with gardens and ocean views and enough space that she never felt trapped. She'd turned one wing into her personal space. An office, a library, a studio where she was learning to paint under Soyeon's patient instruction. The older woman had stayed in LA, moving into the estate's guest house. I'm too old to live alone in Busan, she declared. And I want to be close for the grandchildren. Grandchildren that were still theoretical, but Amara and Jiwon were talking about it. About family. About future. The organization had changed too. Jiwon had been slowly transitioning legitimate businesses to the forefront, reducing the criminal operations. It would take years, maybe decades, to fully clean the family holdings. But he was trying. Because he'd promised Amara he would. Because he wanted their children to inherit wealth without blood on it. The door opened. Jiwon entered, looking delicious in a 3-piece suit, his hair slightly disheveled from running his hands through it. A gesture that meant he'd been in difficult negotiations. How'd it go? Amara asked in Korean. Partnership secured. Territory boundaries established. No bloodshed required. He smiled, moving to stand behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. How was your day? Productive. Finished the cultural assessment for the new import contracts. Translated 3 agreements. Had lunch with Mrs. Song. She's softening, actually asked my opinion on her son's dating life. You're winning them over. One skeptical Korean elder at a time. It helps that I'm married to you. And pregnant. The words slipped out before she'd planned them. Before she'd decided on the perfect moment. Jiwon went completely still behind her. What did you just say? I'm pregnant. 6 weeks. I found out this morning. She turned in his arms to face him. I was going to tell you over dinner, make it romantic, but... He kissed her, deep and thorough and filled with joy so pure it took her breath away. We're having a baby, he whispered against her lips. 우리 아기. Our baby. Yes. Are you happy? Happy. His laugh was incredulous. I'm terrified and ecstatic and already planning how to protect them from everything in the world while also giving them freedom and... He stopped, his eyes bright. I'm so happy I can't find words big enough. In English or Korean. They held each other as the sun set over the city. Two people who'd defied every odd to be together, now creating new life. That evening they told Soyeon. The older woman cried, laughed, immediately started planning. A great-grandchild. Finally. I'll teach them Korean. And how to make proper kimchi. And all the old stories. Hermie, the baby isn't even born yet. All the more reason to plan. She hugged Amara tightly. Mrs. Kim would be so proud of you, child. So proud. Later, alone in their bedroom, Jiwon painted Amara's portrait. She sat on the bed, wearing one of his shirts, looking radiant and beautiful and more at peace than the scared woman in a janitor's uniform had ever imagined possible. What are you thinking? She asked. That a year ago I was alone. Powerful but empty. Going through motions. He set down his brush, came to sit beside her. Then you spoke Korean in a conference room and changed everything. Made me remember who I was. Made me want to be better. And now I'm terrified of being a father. Of failing you. Of not being enough. He took her hand, placed it on his chest over his heart. But I'm also happier than I've ever been. Because I have you. We have each other. And that's enough to face anything. Amara kissed him softly. We're going to be okay. All of us. You, me, our baby. We'll figure it out together. Together, Jiwon agreed. Always together. Outside their window, Los Angeles glittered with possibility. Inside, a family was forming. Imperfect, complicated, built from trauma and choice and impossible love. But it was theirs. And it was everything.